week. The ANC's provincial spokesperson, Mafika Mdibele, says he's optimistic that GPU will ensure people of KwaZulu-Natal benefit from service delivery.
As the ANC, we are quite happy. I think the Premier has implemented all what we have agreed upon. What is important now is to ensure that the buzzword should be service delivery. Our MECs must go out, they must work, we must roll out service delivery.
The MK party in the province, however, says it will not accept the GPU in its current form. The party will occupy the opposition benches despite securing the most votes in last month's polls. The MK party, Simpiwe Mbata.
So we reject what is happening in KwaZulu-Natal as the main opposition, and we are not happy. We are not happy because if you can check the numbers, Umkhonto Wesizwe got about 37 seats. And those who are following us, they are about 14, which is the IFP. Now the IFP and the ANC and the DA, they sat together and they formed a government without our consent or even letting us as the majority to lead the discussions. Why they were doing that? They were doing that because they wanted to put the government with the back door, simply because they were rejected.
Less than 1% of the total sales value in the national fresh produce markets comes from smallholder or SMME farmers. This finding is part of a provisional report from the Fresh Produce Market Inquiry conducted by the Competition Commission. It found that many small-scale farmers find it difficult to enter the value chain in the fruit and vegetable market. The purpose of the investigation was to determine whether any aspects of the fresh produce value chain hinder limits or distorts market competition. Competition Commission Deputy Commissioner Hadin Rachisusu.
HDP or SME market agents also find it difficult to enter and grow in the NFPM space. Where entry occurs, this is limited and survival rate is low.
And finally, the International Organization for Migration says nearly 600,000 people have now been displaced by gang violence in Haiti, an increase of 60% since March. The UN agency says it's a direct consequence of years of conflict between armed gangs. The BBC's Warren Bull reports.
The International Organization for Migration says violence in Haiti has exploded since February, with the worst affected areas in and around the capital, Port-au-Prince. The agency says armed groups have created an effective siege of the city, and that since March, the number of people who've fled to neighbouring provinces has doubled to 250,000, adding to tensions over scarce resources. A new Prime Minister, Gary Conille, was appointed 2 weeks ago to help restore order, but the deployment of a long-promised Kenyan-led police force to Haiti has been continually delayed.
Recapping the top story, the inauguration of South Africa's president in the country's 7th administration is scheduled to take place at the Union Buildings in Pretoria today. President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa will be sworn in by the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. Peter Steph du Toit to captain the Springboks in a crucial test against Wales. And in cricket, both the men's and women's Proteas teams in action today. All the details just before 6:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Major delays on your way down towards Durban. Having left Pietermaritzburg, it's a truck that's overturned between Cliffdale and Key Ridge, and there's quite a backlog that you'll pick up just south of the Hammersdale area. Most of the lanes are closed on your way to Durban at that particular scene. Reports of protesting again, burning tyres in the Springfield area of Durban. Just watch for some disruption. Umgeni Road looks a little bit slower than it should, so there may well be an impact on Umgeni Road around the N2 highway, sort of N2 to Macro, if you like. The other story we're watching is the closure of the N4 out in Mpumalanga. This is the Elands Valley section. The road is closed between what they call Crossroads, which is the Schoemanskloof split, and Waterval Boven. So all that traffic between Machadodorp and Mbombela being diverted at this stage along the Schoemanskloof section. And of course, it's inauguration day. Plenty of closures already in around the Union buildings, out to Hatfield, Eastwood and Sunnyside. Expect a day of traffic disruption and diversions around the that side of Pretoria. I'm Rob Byrne. SAFM Sunrise starts now.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8 minutes after 6, good morning. Welcome to SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Glad you're with us this morning. It's a big day. It's the day of the second inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa, and still quite early in the morning, and I sort of look to my right. Do stands at your left, looking out the window here at the 6th floor at Radio Park, Auckland Park. Go to the centre of Joburg, look for a hill, walk over the hill, there you'll find us. And I'm kind of looking for the dawn. Can you see the dawn? Not yet. There's a glimmer, just a glimmer at this stage as I sort of turn my head. There's a sort of glimmer of orange, really, just in the distance. And in about 5 minutes, a little bit later than yesterday, it will suddenly start to slowly come up, and within about half an hour or so, it will actually be a glorious dawn. Frankly, we have the most amazing dawns here in Joburg, as you know, during this time of year. So, as I say, a big day for the second inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa. I think things are going to be very different in this term. They're going to be very different for a number of reasons. The first, of course, is that he's now leading a coalition government, and for the first time in many, many, many years, it's a coalition government in South Africa. And so there's a lot that's kind of new, and a lot that's kind of going to be the same. And after the inauguration, I think really probably the most important decision he will make, well, certainly the first big important decision he'll make will be about his cabinet and who's going to be there and who isn't, and how parties are going to be represented. And of course, they're very senior people in the ANC who need to be represented in that cabinet as well. Various heads of state here already for this. The heads of state from Angola, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Eswatini, they're here, Burundi as well, plenty of others, some probably still coming, very busy people, so pop in, pop out kind of thing, sort of stay for the whatever event there is afterwards, because a lot of business gets done, in these things, sometimes some of it quite important business, so a very sort of interesting and important moment in a way for sort of Southern Africa, perhaps, actually, because it's a place where people can come and be together. The ceremony starts at 11, you'll hear it here, but the ceremony starts at 11. It's pretty quick. Sort of done by 12, really. The big speech by the president, kind of probably 12:40 or so, maybe a bit before that. But by 1 o'clock, it's sort of done. Now, there are a lot of invited guests, and one of the things I'm going to be looking for this morning, and we'll be live to the inauguration a little later, we'll speak to our reporters there, but one of the things I'm going to be looking for is where people are sitting. So obviously the president and some of the others will be sort of on the stage. But where will, for example, the leaders of the political parties in the coalition be sitting? Will they be sitting as invited guests in the front row of the audience? Will they be sitting on the stage? I don't know. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to just get an understanding of that and see where people are sitting. And you'll see the leaders of the armed forces always very prominent there, just a sort of reminder that the president is the commander-in-chief. So I presume that most of the political party leaders will be there. Umkhonto we Sizwe says they won't be there. They say, and it's quite a sort of rude statement in a way, politics is often robust and tough, but talking about a sort of DA-sponsored puppet president, that kind of language. So from what we can see, they won't be there, which also means that a former president, Jacob Zuma, won't be there. And it sort of reminds me a little bit, it's a bit different, but it reminds me a little bit of how Donald Trump refused to attend the inauguration of Joe Biden. Do you remember that? And so what happened? Well, George Bush, so the younger Bush, George Bush too, he went and was sort of there very prominently showing a sort of Republican support for the inauguration of a Democratic president in those very difficult times in the United States, and I think they're heading back to difficult times. Some developments around the coalition government yesterday. Late last night, a statement from the PAC, the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, saying that it would like to join the government, the coalition government. We'll speak to them a little later and find out why. I mean, it's one thing for the ANC and the DA to work together, but the PAC and the DA, really? Okay, I mean, sure. I mean, let's not introduce land. Well, you're going to make one Minister of Land Affairs and the other Deputy Minister. Can you imagine? Well, maybe we should actually, to see what happens. Anyway, we'll probably get on very well. Anyway, we'll ask them about why they want to join the United Democratic Movement, and there are two big stories about them. The one is that Bantu Holomisa, the leader of the UDM, has said that he might actually be interested in joining the coalition government. One or two things you'd like to just check on, if you know what I mean. But also, and this is a very serious story. Their deputy president, Nkabayomzi Kwankwa, was kidnapped yesterday. Apparently he was on his way to Cape Town International Airport. He was going to fly up to Gauteng to see the new dawn break and then to go to the inauguration. But it turns out he was kidnapped, and this is a serious story. The UDM ended up paying 10,000 rand to have him released. His goods were stolen, etc. Described as shaken and traumatized, and who wouldn't be? But just a reminder of the sort of lived reality that we're in at the moment and how serious that issue has been, the sort of kidnap for ransom, which is something we did not see until about 3-4 years ago, and seemed strangely to be kind of isolated in certain communities, but now seems to be changing. And I thought that was very important. So yeah, we'll have a look at that as well as we go through the morning together. The markets have had a huge rally, and I know there's a big debate around the power of the markets. I understand that. I think I do. But the Rand, the JSE, the bond market, all moving in the right direction, all making big gains. And I think this is all about the sort of coalition government and what could possibly happen. And I wonder how they'll react to the new cabinet, because that will be the sort of biggest signal that President Cyril Ramaphosa will send. Becky Cele was speaking yesterday. His last speech as police minister, and I can say that quite confidently because he is not a member of parliament. He did not actually, basically, the ANC did not win enough votes, enough seats for him to be a member of parliament. And he was talking to police officers who had received medals. It was a medal parade. And he said to them they shouldn't sort of take their medals and dance with them on TikTok and treat them basically with respect, I think is what he was saying. I mean, Becky Cele is a very interesting character. I've always thought, and there's a lot to criticize, sure, but I've always thought his heart was in it. I thought that was very important, that, you know, he wanted the better life for people was my sort of understanding. I haven't spoken to him many times, I must say, a couple of times. And at one point, I think, played a very important role in KwaZulu-Natal ANC politics. So very interesting to watch. If you're ever on YouTube and you've got a moment, just have a look. It's an old SABC news report from 2017, but search for Becky Cele and Nomvula Mokonyane, KZN. See what you get. It's worth watching, I tell you. I think they've made up since then, but it was certainly a fiery meeting on YouTube. One other story I must just mention, the Competition Commission yesterday releasing a provisional report about food prices and particularly fresh produce. So we're talking vegetables and fruit, everyone's favorite vegetables. And they say that supermarkets should display the price per gram. In other words, you can buy an apple at the moment, or you can buy grapes or something, or lettuce, but they should display the price per gram to make it easier to shop around. And they also look at the fresh produce markets, and there seem to be issues there. They could be more efficient. And all of those, if those efficiencies came in, it would mean that you would pay less for fruit and vegetables. So that could be quite important. All right, good to have you along with us this morning. You know, the number 086 000 2032. We'll have more from the inauguration. We'll cross to our reporting teams there, find out what the vibe is. There'll be more, of course, for you. Kathy, of course, will bring you that when that ceremony starts at 11 o'clock. You can SMS us on 41391. We'll speak to the PAC a little later. You can WhatsApp us on 0614 104 107. We'll find out more about the Government of National Unity, as it's being called, from Ndumiseni Ntuli. He's the new Chief Whip in the National Assembly, of course, from the ANC. Good to have you along this morning. You know how to get in touch at 16 minutes after 6.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
And Musa, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
Can you see the dawn from where you are at this stage? It's slowly getting more and more orange on the right-hand corner from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I'll pretend to see it.
We have more windows than you, of course. Well, what's coming up today? There's something happening in Tshwane, obviously.
Very big, beginning of a new chapter, the formal ceremony marking the beginning of the president's term of office and the beginning of the 7th administration of a democratic South Africa. That's where President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa will take his oath of office, which officially starts his presidency, and the presidential inauguration is themed 30 years of democracy, partnership and growth, basically meaning that everyone has a role to play in building a brighter tomorrow. That's the dawn we are looking at.
As I understand, at the moment he takes the oath, the current cabinet is dissolved, so he kind of has to appoint a new cabinet pretty quickly afterwards.
Yeah, but there's also no deadline,
Yes.
I would think, for the president to announce the cabinet, but hopefully it would be sometime this week. I mean, I think in 2019 it took about, 3-4 days before
Yes.
he actually did.
I think David Mabuza was I don't know what he was doing at the time, but he ended up as deputy president and there was a delay as a result. Yes.
Yeah, and so government announcing its readiness for the big day today, the inauguration, and also reminding citizens that today is not a public holiday. Very important.
Unfortunately, yes.
The Kontu Isizwe party as well confirming that they will not attend the inauguration, and the party saying that joining the inauguration would be like spitting on the graves of those who died for freedom. Stories also looking at the PAC changing its tune and now deciding to join the government of national unity. It was part of a group of parties that last week expressed their opposition to the unity government, and they appeared under the banner of the Progressive Caucus. The IEC once again explaining election results as well as the seats assigned to political parties have not changed, and this in an effort to explain the update made on its online results platform. We also have details on the kidnapping of UDM's Deputy President Kabayomzi Kwankwa, who is safe after being kidnapped and hijacked on his way to Cape Town Airport yesterday. And in courts, the case of EFF leader Julius Malema and his co-accused continues at the East London Magistrates Court, and this is in relation to the charge they face of discharging a firearm at Sisa Dukashe Stadium. That was during the party's 5th anniversary. And lastly, the Vodacom's forensic liaison supervisor is expected back on the stand. That's in the Senzumehiwa trial at the High Court in Pretoria.
Thank you very much indeed. And Musa will be listening on the radio 19 minutes now after 6.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Well, there are no impact-based warnings, fire danger warnings or advisories at all from the Weather Service today. So largely in much of the country a sort of fine day to welcome the inauguration. Tshwane this morning, fine, a low of 5, a high of 23. Johannesburg fine, 3 and 22. Vereeniging fine, 1 and 22. Bombela fine, 13 and 26. Polokwane fine, 4 and 24. Mahakeng fine, 4 and 22. Vryburg fine, 3 and 22. Mangaung fine, 0 and 18. Kimberley fine, 2 and 19. Uppington fine, 3 and 20. Cape Town, cloudy, scattered showers and rain, clearing from the early morning, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon. A light and variable wind, 12 and 18. George, cloudy, isolated showers, rain, clearing from the evening, a moderate to fresh northwesterly wind, 10 and 17. Gqeberha, cloudy, isolated showers and rain, becoming partly cloudy in the evening, a moderate to fresh westerly wind, 10 and 19. East London, fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, a light to moderate southwesterly wind, 12 and 20. eThekwini, fine, becoming partly cloudy by the late afternoon, isolated showers and rain, a light and variable wind, 15 and 23. Richards Bay, fine, becoming partly cloudy by the late afternoon, isolated showers and rain, a light and variable wind, 16 and 24. And Pietermaritzburg this morning, morning fog patches, otherwise fine, 10 and 22.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
20 minutes after 6, good morning. In Pyongyang, Russian President Vladimir Putin is finishing his trip to North Korea, where he's been signing new agreements with that country's leader, Kim Jong-un. Russia's already using artillery ammunition or shells that have been stockpiled in North Korea for many years, and its invasion in Ukraine. It appears the two countries are now moving closer together, North Korea and Russia, that is. Roland Henwoods, a political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. Roland, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen.
What is the aim of this visit? Is it simply about Russia getting more ammunition for its invasion of Ukraine, or does it actually go deeper than that?
I think it goes deeper than that. Yes, on the one hand, is getting necessary supplies seems to be high on the agenda, but also it's a show of force. It's a show of Putin basically that he has friends outside of Russia, that he has friends outside of the Western world, that he's trying to box him in, and that he can travel and basically engage at free will in some way. But I think it also shows that there's a need for cooperation, but it also in a way links to Russia's closer ties with China, in that China, North Korea and Russia seems to be becoming a very important grouping within the broader context of global politics.
Well, I was going to come to that because China, historically North Korea's strongest ally, fought on that side in the Korean Civil War in the 1950s. Technically, famously that war never ended. Does this sort of, do you think China is at all threatened by this, or do you think they welcome Russia's closer relationship with North Korea?
I think not threatened, but will definitely keep a close eye on what is happening. As you indicate, China has very close ties and strong interest in what's happening in North Korea. One must also remember that both Russia and China formed part of the six-nation group that managed, negotiated, and to a large extent controlled policy on North Korea with the United States, South Korea, and Japan. Russia has now broken ranks in that it vetoed UN Security Council decisions on North Korea and the North Korean nuclear program. And it's not clear what China thinks of that, because China has been quite supportive and active in that process, trying to curb the North Korean nuclear program with the rest of the world and the other nations in that group. And Russia has now, in a way, broken ranks, probably not without consulting China, but we know that China is not very happy with the nuclear program because it's destabilizing the region. So there are underlying issues that all the countries would look at very carefully.
Putin is a busy man. I mean, his country is at war. He's leading that essentially. For him to spend 2 days in North Korea, this is clearly an important relationship.
It is an important relationship, and there's a lot of accusations, rumors about massive shipments of arms going to Russia from North Korea, and indications that may actually be growing. Now, Russia and North Korea have both denied that this is happening, but there's a lot of information going around that North Korea is becoming a key player and supplier in especially munitions that Russia needs for the war in Ukraine, that it cannot produce itself, not the quantities that it needs. So it is an important visit in that sense. And it shows the dependence that is growing and the interdependence that is growing between these two countries.
So, we see particularly Russia and China seem to be spending more time together, and sort of Russia's view on the invasion of Ukraine is considered as important. North Korea is a country that's become important really only because it has access to nuclear weapons. It's been developing those over several years. But I presume it's still very much the, junior or weaker partner in this sort of threesome of Russia, China, and North Korea?
Yes, it is a junior partner, but it may become more important to Russia than it is to China. In terms of the Chinese-North Korean relationship, it's one that is shared with a shared border. There's some economic interests that go back quite some time, manufacturing. Although China has curbed a lot of the cross-border trade and the free access that used to exist, Russia seems to be on a different plane, developing a much closer relationship, sharing technology. There's a lot of fears that Russia may be sharing very sensitive space technology with North Korea, developing its satellite systems. And that is not going to sit well with China, although it won't act in a way that one would normally expect the government to act on this. So there's a lot of need, but there's also a lot of potential for growing tension in the region.
And with all of this, as you said at the very beginning, Putin needs allies. I don't know if this is really a symptom or a reflection of the sort of West's isolation of Russia working, probably not quite in that way, but it does show that he's not quite desperate for friends, but does need them.
Well, that, on the other hand, it's not the kind of friends that Russia used to, in the modern era, associate with. It's actually interesting that until a couple of years back, Russia was a standing member of the Group of 10, now the Group of 7 nations that just had its meeting in Italy. Russia became or was disinvited from the group when it annexed the Crimea. And that indicates how the punishment of Russia started to unfold and its isolation started to grow. And Russia these days, yes, they have friends, but not the kind of friends in high places that they used to have and that Putin used to have free access to. So this is an indication of his growing isolation. And yes, there are means to get out of that, but not moving in the circles that he would like to and that he used to move in.
Thank you very much indeed, Roland Henwood, political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. Really appreciate the time. 27 minutes after 6.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning.
Good morning.
Peter Steph du Toit to captain the Springboks.
Let's hope he can lead us to victory, Stephen. A big announcement yesterday by the Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus. Yes, flanker Peter Steph du Toit will captain a under-strength South African team in the one-off test against Wales, all happening at Twickenham on Saturday, the 22nd of June. Now, this test is placed outside the international window, which means regular captain Siya Kolisi is unavailable. The Bok coach Erasmus has included 7 players from the World Cup final in the starting lineup alongside 4 uncapped players, 2 of whom will start. Let's now hear from Rassie Erasmus.
He's given us a chance to not throw in 7, 8 new guys at the same time, because sometimes you throw them to the wolves. But with having senior experienced guys around him, these guys can take ownership now and just concentrate on their job and don't have to watch too much about leading and those kind of things. They can just do what we picked them for.
Cricket now. The Proteas captain Aiden Markram has warned against underestimating the United States ahead of their T20 World Cup showdown, stating that the Americans are not a small team anymore. The USA shocked the cricket world by defeating former champions Pakistan in the group stage, propelling them into the elite Super 8s. Now, the Proteas, despite finishing their opening group campaign with 4 wins, struggled for runs, with David Miller being the standout batsman. The Proteas will need their bowlers, led by Anrik Nokia, to continue their strong form and progress further in the tournament. And it starts today at 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, the Proteas women all-rounder Nadine de Klerk says they're still optimistic that they can get a better result against India in their second ICC Women's Championship ODI. The Proteas women suffered a 143-run defeat in their first match, and that was on Sunday. De Klerk, however, believes they can get a positive result at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium this morning, starting at 10 a.m.
I think we're still pretty confident. I think we've had a good couple of meetings and we know exactly what we need to do. So, unfortunate result the other day. All credit has to go to India for the way they played and put us under pressure. But I think, tomorrow's a new game and we start fresh and we're ready for whatever challenge gets thrown at us. And, we are hoping to put up a better performance than we did the other day.
Soccer action has Portugal. They had a last gasp 2-1 win over the Czech Republic in their Euro 2024 Group F opener. And we also have Turkey. They started their Euro 2024 campaign with a 3-1 win over the newcomers Georgia. And finally, golf. Rory McIlroy is set to play at the Paris Olympics alongside the world number 1 Scotty Scheffler after taking a break from golf following his dramatic late collapse at the US Open. The qualifying period for the event came to an end after the US Open at Pinehurst, and this was when McIlroy finished as runner-up to the US star Bryson DeChambeau after squandering a 2-shot lead with 5 holes to play. That's a wrap of your Sport on Sunrise. More top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. Well, more, of course, from the inauguration due to start later this morning. It's an important day, and as I look to my right, the sun is beginning to rise. There's a nice orange glow in the dawn. You with SAFM leading the conversation. Good morning, 6:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will today officiate the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will be inaugurated at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. The PAC has changed its tune and has joined the Government of National Unity. It was part of a group of parties that last week expressed their opposition to the unity government under the banner of the Progressive Caucus. And Russia's President Vladimir Putin will officially be welcomed to North Korea later today after landing in Pyongyang in the middle of the night. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A couple of issues on your way to Durban this morning. The big one is a truck overturning between Hammersdale and Key Ridge, so the Peacevale, Cliffdale area. There is a big backlog of traffic just south of Hammersdale. As you come into that scene, multiple lanes on the N3 towards Durban are currently closed off. And then the Springfield part of Durban erupting with protesting again this morning. The M19 Umgena Road section between the N2 and Alpine Road is where the protesting has been. between. So just expect some delays if you're on your way from Reservoir Hills or heading out to Durban towards the highway or towards Reservoir Hills. Delays and disruption likely there. Obviously, Pretoria lockdown between Hatfield and the Union buildings. It's a massive block of roads that are closed until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Basically, Soutpansberg Road in the north and Stanzibar Papi in the south, and anything sort of in between there or anything that crosses Stanzibar Papi is currently closed, and there's already some noticeable backlogging going on that area. The N4 out in Mpumalanga closed through Waterval Boven due to a truck crash. Motorists driving between Mashadadorp and Mbombela going to be diverted over the N4 Schoemanskloof option as the alternative routing. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Ntalengla Chela, good morning. How are you doing?
Morning, Stephen. I'm well, thanks, and I hope you're good.
Good. How are the markets this inauguration day?
Traders are still positive on equities as we're seeing green screens around the globe. In the US, market darling Nvidia's run has made it the most valuable company on Wall Street, further boosting those markets with all three indexes closing in the green yesterday. The same sort of upbeat sentiment has also played out in Asia. This morning, we are seeing major markets in that region trading in the green. Chip and artificial intelligence related shares leading the advance, being fueled, of course, by Nvidia's rally. It's also risk on here at home. Local markets really performing well. We are seeing optimism around the recently formed GNU with SA Inc. stocks, listed companies that have their fortunes tied to the growth of the local economy faring well. So we're seeing banking stocks, retailers and insurers listed on the JSE posting major gains. The All Share in the meantime closed yesterday almost 4% higher, being boosted by a near 7% jump in the financial 15. The rand also upbeat, edging closer to below the 18 rand mark. It's currently trading at 18.04 to the dollar.
And then JP Morgan turning quite positive on SA assets. A lot of this at the moment.
We've recently seen locally listed assets and the rand make big gains on the back of the post-election euphoria, with market analysts saying that the tie-up we are seeing between the ANC, DAP and IFP is somewhat the best election outcome for the economy. Now, this saw the world's largest bank by market value, JP Morgan, upgrade its view on local assets from underweight to overweight in its Central Europe, Middle East and Africa asset allocation, suggesting that the group is more positive about the country's prospects. This, however, is a short-term upgrade. The group has warned that risks to its assessment were that no cabinet was in place yet, and that the GNU structure has not been tried out in almost 30 years. And so it'll be taking a wait-and-see approach before considering a longer-term upgrade.
And then Thungela warning of a decline in earnings, quite serious.
Coal miner Thungela Resources says that the operating environment remains challenging, and so it expects earnings to decline by as much as 69%, Stephen. Now, Thungela has pointed to a decline in global coal prices, a drawdown on stockpiles from last year, December, and an increase in lower quality coal in this export sales mix. Now, the group further said it is struggling in its international markets as the European and Asian winter energy demand did not meet expectations, so coal and gas stockpiles remained high at key import hubs, which then resulted in those reduced demand and softer prices for most of its first half of the year. Now, the group's fortunes might not change anytime soon as macroeconomic and geopolitical challenges remain, not forgetting the logistics issues that persist in South Africa, which have also weighed on Thungela's performance.
Ntalengla Chela, thank you so much. Back in an hour, more business news through the day here on SFM.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
Africa Update on SAFM Sunrise, a continental overview of current African affairs.
Ras Advocate Sipho Mantula, good morning.
Steve, refreshing morning and Jumbo Africa to the listeners.
All right, so big day for the inauguration. Sun rising to my right, I can see. Dignitaries from around the world, and particularly our continent, are here.
Stephen, that is quite true. Many countries have confirmed attending the 7th administration inauguration of President Ramaphosa under the Government of National Unity. We have people from Kingdom of Eswatini, Kingdom of Lesotho, President Mnangagwa, Philip Nyusi, Mozambique, Namibia, Angola, Tanzania, Uganda, the People's Republic of China, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the State of Palestine, and the Republic of Cuba. We saw their Vice President Salvador Valdez Mesa also arrived yesterday, and the AU will be represented by Musa Faki Mohammed. We know, Stephen, all the formal engagement of the inauguration will get underway in the morning around 11 a.m. and there will be some cultural events happening today at the Union Building. Despite that, it is not a public holiday, Stephen, but it's an inauguration of the head of state in South Africa.
And then more than 200 protesters have been arrested in Kenya. This is around the proposed tax hike. It's a big thing to do.
Stephen, it's a big thing to do, and also when I saw on the Twitter street yesterday, one of the former SABC journalists, Saraki Mani, as an activist on human rights, was also arrested, Stephen, out of those 200 people during the hikes, around the tax hikes, that the civil society, the human rights activists are lamenting on the tax hikes, on the motor vehicles, on the bread. And this happened also last year, if you can recall, when Odinga as well as William Ruto, they were in the tussle. It was around the issue of the cost of living. And now again, there's a bill that is before Parliament. This group of human rights activists are now saying that they will also camp outside the Parliament when this bill will be passed by the Ministry of Finance. So Raila Odinga urging members to scrutinize the bill and vote to remove the clauses that will burden the poor.
And then armed groups in the Central African Republic seem to have increased their activities. How serious is that?
Stephen, this is serious because this is the latest UN report that comes to say that the conflict in South Sudan also is affecting the neighboring Central African Republic, because the rapid support forces are crossing over to can recruit the armed forces in the CAR. And the numbers also of refugees leaving the South Sudan, it also complicates the North Sudan, it also complicates the crisis that is also in the CAR as well as in North Sudan. And they are raising numbers, Stephen, that there are many people who are leaving, and at the same time, despite the sanctions that have been pushed against many of these armed rebel groups, the CAR and the North Sudan are really at the verge of collapse, and in terms of the challenges that they are facing.
And then the situation in Burundi, there's been a big political crackdown. That was in the past. What's happening now?
For now, Burundi, Stephen, we thought it is slowly returning to the international community, with the US and the EU putting some money, the 40 million that was given to Burundi early this year. But there is this issue of energy crisis. The load shedding in Burundi is also causing the economy. Commodities going up also from fuel to sugar, but the electricity shortage is hitting the hardest, Stephen, and that also affects the economic growth of Burundi. Hence, the main people in Burundi are worried about whether will Burundi survive, and they're looking at the 2027 plan in terms of where they are saying they need 400 megawatts for them to meet the industrialization goals as Burundi.
And then in our archive, it's the 19th of June, 1913.
It's almost 111 years ago, Stephen, the Native Land Act was passed to only allocate 7% of the arable land to the Africans and leaving more fertile lands to the whites. And this also was incorporated since the Union in 1910. We still have the crisis of land question in this country, Stephen, but this was important because people like Solomon Tekiso Haplati came out with the Native Land Act. They published a lot. Tembeka Ngogaito with the senior council also have written a lot about the land question in South Africa. Asante Sana AG, as we are still leading the conversation, SAFM observing the Youth Month.
Russ Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you so much. And of course, back tomorrow mornings from our continent through the day here on SAFM.
There's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our business solar loans. Accessing our business solar loans means you get connected to the right supplier for your business and the most feasible tailor-made financing solution. And that financing solution means 8,760 hours of uninterrupted power for your business, sourced directly from the African sun. You see, there's going green. Then there's going green with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Well, you know the number this morning. That is the number, of course. How are you feeling about the inauguration? Dawn, very much broken to my right. The sun, of course, coming up. But various issues. Who do you think will be in cabinet? How do you think it's all going to work out? What we're seeing the provincial cabinets as well. Looking forward to that. Haven't actually seen Gauteng's yet, but in Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal are both announcing their cabinets. 18 minutes to 7. Voice notes coming through this morning around the inauguration, around MK on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, Stephen. You really made me laugh this morning with your new dawn. Any case, on a serious note, do we really need this inauguration when in the midst of all this poverty that we have? It's like someone getting married for the second time and then having an elaborate, flashy wedding when they can't afford it.
Okay, yeah, interesting way of looking at it. I do think it's a smaller inauguration than it was, but I think your point is well made. Other voice notes?
Good morning, Stephen. Morning to the SAFM listeners as well. Jacob Zuma not attending Cyril Ramaphosa's inauguration is a non-issue. Nobody cares. That's like me saying that I won't be attending Beyonce's party. I wasn't invited. It's Kanye and Katlong.
Okay, I think he was invited as a former president, but I hear your point. Are you with SAFM? The number 086 000 2032, 17 minutes to 7.
After months of painstaking investigation, reporter Rihanna Croxford speaks to men who say they were recruited into a dark world, created to satisfy the sexual fantasies of Mike Jeffries and his British partner Matthew Smith. Tune into The Abercrombie Guys, The Dark Side of Cool, Thursday the 20th of June at 9 p.m. Then, stay tuned for Louis Theroux Life on the Edge at 10 p.m. as Louis explores how America has managed to take our darkest desires, commodify them, and turn them into a saleable product. Channel your inner curiosity with BBC Primetime documentaries. Thursdays from 9 till 11 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Get private banking levels of service from an Auto & General private advisor. This exclusive service is perfectly tailored for customers with more to cover but less time to spend covering it. If you have more than a car to insure and your combined cover is valued at over 1 million rand, you qualify for this personalized service. Enjoy after-hours assistance, proactive policy management and more when you apply at autogen.co.za. Auto & General. Never not there. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SABC Sport delivers a warm blanket this June.
3 teams are playing their hearts out in the PSL promotional playoffs, all hunting for a special ticket to the Big Boys League of Ibhola Nasemzansi.
The queens of the beautiful game kick like real champs in the Hollywood Bet Super League.
Foot Afrique brings you up to speed on African football, while final analysis wraps up your weekend.
LFC TV is the ultimate destination for Liverpool FC fans, while Sport at 10 keeps you awake on Wednesdays.
Dive deep into comprehensive analysis of the world of boxing on the TKO.
The Journos podcast brings together top sports journalists for engaging conversations and expert insights.
Countdown to Paris brings you up to speed on the build-up to the Olympic Games Paris 2024 on Saturday evenings.
There's action galore in the world of SABC Sport, Boxing World Weekly, NBA Lifestyle, Youth Sport Show, Goats Like Us, Racing 92 and many more. Happy Youth Month.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
14 minutes to 7. Good morning in KwaZulu-Natal. The new premier there, the IFP's Tommy Ntuli, sworn in at a ceremony yesterday and then appointing his new provincial cabinet. There are 2 MECs from the IFP, 3 from the ANC, including their provincial leader, Sibiniso Duma, 2 from the DA and 1 from the National Freedom Party, which is that 1 seat in the KwaZulu-Natal legislature. The new MEC for Finance in KwaZulu-Natal is the DA's leader in that province, Francois Rogers. He joins us now. MEC, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners. And please do call me Francois.
Okay. Did you ever see yourself working in a coalition with the IFP and the ANC and KZN? There's a lot of history here. There's, Francois, some of your campaigning in the province over the years. Did you ever think you'd be working together like this?
Stephen, when we started this campaign for this year, we knew that the ANC were never going to get 50%. The writing was clearly on the wall. So we'd started working, as you well know, with the IFP. We'd had a service delivery pact in some of the hung municipalities, and we were sort of sussing each other and, sussing each other out and trying to work together. And of course, we were dealt a hand by the electorate in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and no party got a 50% plus majority. And so therefore it left 4 parties who could collectively, put their differences aside and put the priorities of KwaZulu-Natal, in the forefront and work together. And that's how this is all panned out.
I mean, without MK, I don't know if this would be happening.
Well, I must say that yesterday's inauguration of the Premier went very smoothly. Last week, Friday, was not a great day and not a great start when we elected Speaker and Premier and Deputy Speaker. And of course, the filibustering, took a 3-hour meeting to an 8-hour meeting. But yesterday, hopefully, that's a sign of things to come. That we can all say, well, we've been on the ground for 2 years making promises to the people of KwaZulu-Natal. Now's the time to work together and to deliver on those promises, rather than just have this every 5 year going around making promises and getting people to vote for us. So yesterday was a positive sign, and long may it last. And I congratulate the MK and the EFF on the way the meeting was conducted yesterday.
Okay, I presume, you haven't had a provincial cabinet meeting, I'm sure. But do you think you'll all be able to work together? There's some strong personalities in that provincial cabinet.
Indeed there are, but something else that also gives me encouragement, Stephen, is the fact that obviously, this cooperation has been negotiated with provincial leaders. There was intense discussions about portfolios, but I must once again say the spirit of collegiality and cooperation and putting the people first, once again, gives me hope. And if we can continue in this manner, then I think, those big personalities will blend in to form one big positive cabinet for the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
We know that your party, the DA, so you're part of this provincial coalition, but you're part of the national coalition as well, which includes the same people, the IFP and the ANC and the NFP. Do you know if any kind of pattern is being set in the provinces that could be reflected at national? Let me just explain directly where I'm going. In other words, could your appointment as Finance MEC reflect perhaps that the DA gets an economic portfolio, even the Finance Ministry and national government?
Look, Steve, I don't want to speculate on that, but I would hope that the spirit of negotiation at a national level is following the spirit in which we've done it. People are watching us. Our voters are watching us. They've dealt us this hand. We've now got to be mature. We've got to be sincere. And whatever decision we make has got to be in the best interest of being able to deliver. So I would hope that at a national level, it's very much in the same tone.
You're now the Finance MEC, Francois. One of the big, most contentious issues in that portfolio in KwaZulu-Natal is always the budget for King Msizulu Kazwelithini and his household. Are you going to make any changes to that?
Stephen, I've had some ideas which I had discussed with the late King, and also with the newly inaugurated King, and it's around self-sustainability, financial self-sustainability in the agricultural sector for the royal household. Now that I'm on the inside, it's a lot easier to be able to explore that option, because I really think it's an exciting option and something that will allow the royal household to become more financially independent, and therefore, give us as a province some savings in that area. But obviously, it's very early days. But I think it's a great idea to create a self-sustainable agricultural economy around the royal household. And this would obviously include tourism prospects as well.
Francois Rogers, thank you very much indeed. The new MEC for Finance in KwaZulu-Natal from the Democratic Alliance. 8 minutes to 7.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A couple of issues in Mpumalanga this morning. This is really key. There's some protesting that's erupted just east of Mbombela, but it's on the airport road. It's the 538, just north of the N4 highway. So if you're moving to or from Kruger Mpumalanga International Airport on the 538, there are delays and disruptions, and particularly concerning if you're on your way for a flight connection at that airport traveling from the Mbombela side. You will have to allow extra time and then follow the instructions of the traffic officials once you arrive there. But extra time just to sort of possibly hit some extended detour route. The other issue in Mpumalanga is the closure of the N4 at Waterval-Boven. There's been a big truck crash between Waterval-Boven and the N4 Schoemanskloof Crossroads junction. So through travel between Mbombela and Mashadadorp in either direction is being rerouted over Schoemanskloof as the alternative. A lot of road closures around Pretoria, the eastern side of town, around the Union Building, Sunnyside eastward and Hatfield. Basically, Soutpansberg to the north and Stanzibapapi to the south, and that big sort of quadrant, if you like, from Hatfield through to Arcadia, all shut down for today's inauguration event. There will be disruption this morning and back home this afternoon. Those closures until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. A couple of issues around Durban. Protesting erupting again on Umgena Road to Springfield Park. If you're moving between Durban and Reservoir Hills, factor in some possible queue times. Just watch for extra traffic coming down the N2, not being able to or not wanting to turn into Umgena Road, and that's already queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. A major truck crash at Cliffdale on your way down to Durban. Big backlogs of traffic to Hammersdale. Give yourself plenty of time to get out of Pietermaritzburg on that commute down to Durban. It is heavily disrupted. And Cape Town today, the N1 inbound was the busiest highway yesterday, forming up like that again today. Platterkloof down towards Kubo, get a change busy. And the N7 north in front of Langa, just queuing through to Beaufort Circle on your way slowly towards Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Are you ready to empower yourself with an accredited tertiary qualification? Stadio Higher Education's distance learning programs will set you up for success. Whether you're balancing work and family or you're a school leaver who must work to support yourself and your studies, Stadio offers access to high-quality, affordable qualifications in law, teacher education, commerce, admin and management, policing, and more. Mid-year applications are now open. Visit stadio.ac.za and register today. Stadio, a new vision in higher education.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
5 minutes to 7. Good morning. Reports over the last few days that students in the King Sabata Dalindyebo TVET College have been sleeping in a hall after their landlords evicted them because they hadn't paid rent. That's after the students didn't receive the money and the landlords, it seems, didn't receive the money they were supposed to get from the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. You know how many problems there have been over NSFAS over the last couple of months. Freeman Nomvalo is the administrator for NSFAS. Mr. Nomvalo, good morning. Thank you for joining us again.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
You'll be aware of these reports. Are you taking action over this?
Yes, Stephen. Yesterday, I met the principal as well as the leader of the SRC at KST, and we looked into the issue to understand what the challenges were given the interventions that we've made in the recent past.
Have there been problems with payments to a particular group of people or landlords or students?
In that college, it's mainly to students, and then students pay the landlords themselves. But there has been students that did not receive the full allowances. They received something, but they did not receive the full allowances, and therefore they were not able to pay the landlords accordingly. This flows from the inconsistency in the information that we have and the college has. And this is symptomatic of some of the challenges that are appearing in other colleges as well or universities.
It seemed surprising to me that the landlords evicted them so quickly. I thought under the Prevention of Illegal Eviction Act, a landlord wouldn't be able to do that in the way that they've done it so quickly. I mean, one non-payment and you're out. I didn't think that was legal.
Look, we couldn't confirm the fact that people were evicted. The reports did claim there were evictions, but we couldn't confirm the evictions themselves. But we do know that there has been serious challenges in that place, and we did address those challenges in our meeting yesterday.
Okay. You've been parachuted into a very difficult job. I hope you don't mind me using that phrase, because we know we've all seen the problems at NSFAS. From what you see at the moment, are the vast majority of students and landlords and institutions getting the money that they're supposed to be getting? In other words, we know, and there's been consistent problems since the beginning of the year. From what you're aware of at this stage, is the system actually delivering the money where that money is supposed to go, let's call it 95% of the time?
Well, we can't put our hands in our heart and say that at the moment. These challenges that we see seem to be not just limited to one institution. They seem to be happening across various institutions, partly driven by our inadequate systems, partly driven by our inconsistent communication sometimes to the institutions, and the lack of understanding of the rules of the game. There are certain guidelines that NSFAS uses in funding, in dispersing, and so on. And we need to make sure that there is common understanding across the board. At the moment, it's not happening 99% of the time.
Freeman Nomvalo, thank you very much indeed. Administrator, the National Financial Aid Scheme, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Clement on the line from eThekwini. Clement, hi, good morning. The new government, go for it.
Yes, good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Clement. Go for it.
Yes, I want to talk about this especially. I was reading one of the food quotes that he wrote. He said that the black people in near future, they will be free from the white. But after 25 years later, they will bring back the land and the resources to the white people.
I'm not aware of that
sure it's a
quote.
Coincidence. Sorry.
Go on.
I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or just it was his prophet was correct.
Yes. Sure.
After 25 years later, black people, they'll bring back the power and the resources back to the white people, voluntary.
Sure.
Because when you read that clause of 24, that Freedom Balula signed, but he didn't understand. That you cannot invite anyone willingly without consulting other part, which is the DA. Which means the DA's got more power in that government of national unity than anyone else. Because without the DA, ANC's got to lose most of the province, even the national government.
Sure, but without the ANC, the DA is also out of power, Clement. I mean, it should, I imagine, go both ways. I must just say, I'm not aware of that quote at all. I'll try and look for it, but I'm not aware of it.
Look, it is there. After this says the black people in South Africa, they will be free in future. But after 25 years later, the black people, they will voluntarily bring back the land and the resources to the white people. It's there.
Okay.
I follow Fairfoot a lot, but most of everything that he said, it's happened to just pass. I'm not sure that guy was a prophet or because of his philosophy. It was that good.
All right.
But you can go, Steve, and check. It's so amazing.
All right, Clement on the line from eThekwini. Thank you. I will go and check, and I must just say, you also, would you believe it, get fake quote sites on the internet. So sometimes you need to check. And Clement, I'm not saying that what you say is not true. I'm just saying that we need to go and verify that. And I'll see if we can. I'm going to have to speak to one or two people and think to verify that. All right, you were there, SFM. A lot more to come on the inauguration. A lot more to come on the new government. You were there, SFM, leading the conversation. Good morning at 7 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top story is the inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa and PAC joins Government of National Unity. Good morning. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will today officiate the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will be inaugurated at the Union Buildings in Pretoria before heads of states of some countries and other dignitaries as well as other political party leaders. Zuleka Kodashe reports.
President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa has ceased to be a member of parliament since his election as president in the National Assembly last week, in accordance with the constitution. It also prescribes that the president-elect must assume office within 5 days. Ramaphosa will take an oath to pledge his loyalty to South Africa and the constitution. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, as the head of the judiciary, will officiate this process. The judiciary has been an integral part of this constitutional process since the handing over of the list by the IEC and the swearing-in of MPs last Friday.
The President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to take an oath of office included in Schedule 2 of the country's constitution. Prabhashni Mudli reports from the Union Buildings.
The ceremony will be held at the Union Buildings Amphitheatre and its South Lawns. The amphitheatre will welcome national and foreign dignitaries, including heads of state. The event will begin with an entertainment program at 9 a.m., while the formal program is expected to commence at 11 a.m. The South African National Defence Force will carry out the ceremonial parts of the inauguration, pledging their allegiance to both the Republic of South Africa and the Commander-in-Chief, President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa.
The PAC has changed its tune and has joined the Government of National Unity. It was part of a group of parties that last week expressed their opposition to the unity government under the banner of the Progressive Caucus. Speaking to SABC News, the party Secretary General Apapoe says their participation in the GNU is rooted in the belief that the PAC can effectively steer the country away from right-leaning tendencies and protect the gains achieved thus far.
The PAC believes that we needed to steer away the current formulated government of national unity away from right-wing leaning tendencies. We believed that the participation of the PAC in the government of national unity will firmly put the issue of the restoration of the land back on the agenda and be central in this new formation.
6 by-elections are expected to take place in the Western Cape today. In the Beaufort West municipality, wards 1, 3 and 6 are being contested. 4 independent candidates will stand in the by-election. The vacancies were caused by resignation of ward councillors. 3 by-elections will also take place in the city of Cape Town. Ward 64, 105 and 113 are being contested. Vacancies were also caused by the resignation of ward councillors. Less than 1% of the total sales value in the national fresh produce markets come from smallholder or SMME farmers. This finding is part of a provisional report from the Fresh Produce Market Inquiry conducted by the Competition Commission. It found that many small-scale farmers find it difficult to enter the value chain in the fruit and vegetable market. The purpose of the investigation was to determine whether any aspects of the fresh produce value chain hinder limits or distorts market competition. The Competition Commission's Deputy Commissioner, Hadin Rachisusu.
HDP or SME market agents also find it difficult to enter and grow in the NFPM space. Where entry occurs, this is limited and survival rate is low.
Further field and finally, Russia's President Vladimir Putin will officially be welcomed to North Korea later after landing in Pyongyang in the middle of the night. He was met at the airport by the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The BBC's Shaima Khalil reports.
Each one knows that the other has something that they want. North Korea needs food, it needs fuel, it needs money. It also needs technology that Russia can offer, especially satellite technology after it failed to launch its spy satellite in May. Russia needs to replenish its depleting stockpile as the war in Ukraine goes on. and North Korea can supply that because North Korean weaponry is based on Soviet-era technology, despite the denials by both Pyongyang and Moscow. We know from the United States and even here from South Korea that Russia has used North Korean weapons in Ukraine.
Recapping the top story, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will today officiate the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will be inaugurated at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Thanks, Anne. Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. 37-year-old Tabogo got a really great deal on his car insurance premium from Outsurance. He pays an amazing R762 per month to insure his white 2018 Ford Figo Ambiente. He now has extra cash every month to go out for a meal with his friends. Get an Outsurance quote today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The rising star Otniel Bartman bolsters the Proteas lineup against the USA today. And in rugby, the Blitzboks are eyeing victory at the Monaco Sevens. We'll bring you the details just before 7:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty busy Wednesday, particularly in Mpumalanga, protesting on the 538. That's the Carino Road, but importantly, it's a blockage on that road between the N4 highway and Kruger Mpumalanga International Airport. If you've got flights to connect with, make sure if you're exiting Mbombela, you're going with plenty of extra time to get through the delays and possible diversions. N4 Elands Valley remains closed. That's due to a truck crash at Waterval-Boven. Traffic being diverted over Schoeman's Kloof is the alternative routing. On your way to Durban, major delays. Recovery of a truck crash happening around the Peacevale area. Big traffic backlogging through to Hammersdale. If you don't fancy that and you're on your way from Pietermaritzburg to Durban, maybe off-ramp at Inchunga and hit some alternative routes. Update on the protest at Umgena Road. Police have arrived at the scene. Traffic is flowing between Alpine Road and the N2. There's no further problem there. There are some smouldering tyres and some fires, but police have managed to move the protesters off Umgena Road and get the traffic flowing both ways. And if you're driving into Cape Town, a pretty sort of gentle morning again following yesterday's relatively easily run-in. The main problem is the traffic congestion on the N1. That is slow this morning from N1 City through to Kubo Change. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
9 after 7, good morning. You're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Glad you're with us this morning as I look to my right from the 6th floor of Radio Park here at the SABC. I can see some fog, which is slowly being burnt away, quite quickly being burnt away by the new dawn as the sun comes up ahead of the inauguration in just 4 hours' time from now. That's when preceding start around 11 o'clock this morning. The Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, of course, will administer the oath to President Cyril Ramaphosa. As he says the oath, by the way, as he takes the oath, literally at that moment, there is no cabinet, so I'm presuming that he will appoint a new cabinet pretty quickly. Some of the people we're due to speak to are actually making their way to the inauguration. Dumiseni Ntuli is the new ANC Chief Whip in the National Assembly. He's agreed to speak to you this morning. We'll hear from our reporting teams at the inauguration as well. Speak to the PAC. They've decided to join the new government. Your mediated conversation a little later, we thought really it's such an important day. We'll actually focus on what we can expect to happen in the future. We've got two political analysts, Professor Stephen Freeman and Dr. Ralph Mateja, to join you from 8:30. Good morning. It's 10 after 7.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. you can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby, it's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
Do you think you're paying too much on your car insurance? 56-year-old Dylan said no to sky-high insurance premiums. He's now insured with Outsurance and only pays 756 Rand a month to insure his white 2023 Haval Jolion S. To follow in Dylan's footsteps, simply SMS out to 30754 for a quote. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
12 after 7, good morning. A big morning this morning, 11 o'clock. The inauguration ceremony for President Cyril Ramaphosa will begin. He'll take the oath of office and start his second term as president. But it does look like his second term could be very different from his first term. He'll be leading a coalition government that includes parties the ANC has campaigned against for many, many years. To keep him in office and to keep the ANC in office, the party's MPs will have to play their role in the National Assembly. The new chief whip of the ANC in the National Assembly is Ndumiseni Ntuli. As you know, he's played an important role in the ANC for many years, and as I understand it, is currently at the inauguration ceremony in Tshwane, or on his way to it. Mr. Ntuli, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning to the listeners, and thanks for having us.
You take over this position at a very interesting time, perhaps the most interesting time I can imagine. We're starting something new. Do you think it's going to be a difficult 5 years, or is it going to be an easy 5 years? I think many people are suspecting that your job might be very difficult.
Well, Steve, I would imagine that it's going to be a very difficult 5 years, given the fact that for the first time since 1994, the ANC is without what we used to have, a decisive majority to form government on our own, and also to set up committees in the legislature and provide leadership in a way that had ensured a seamless integration of policy interpretation and implementation between the executive and the legislature. But I think the ANC leadership is equal to the task. I think we are ready. We are ready to take the challenge. Of course, I do appreciate that. For instance, the concept of the GNU and the statement of intent will continue to be subjected to continuous interpretation and contestation between and among the parties who are involved. But I think the ANC, which is the originator of this concept, will find a way to navigate this in the best interest of our people.
I mean, I think Parliament, as you say, is going to be a lot more contested. There'll be a loud caucus, a strong caucus from the EFF and Umkhonto weSizwe. They're going to make it quite difficult for you in some ways, other parties too. You might have divisions inside the caucuses of other parties. I mean, all of that is going to make your job in particular quite tough.
Well, definitely. I mean, as a chief whip, I'm going to have to shackle between the different political parties, while at the same time also having a major responsibility to keep the detachment of the African National Congress focused and executing the mandate of the ANC with absolute precision. But I do think that, the ANC has looked at us and decided that these are people who are going to help the movement to achieve this objective. So I'm quite optimistic that the caliber of our MPs, the experience and the new blood that has come in, I think our determination and our commitment to learn and our hard-working ethos will make it possible for us to discharge our responsibilities.
As Chief Whip, it's also your job, really, to make sure that ANC MPs vote in the way they're supposed to vote, in the way that the party needs them to. Do you think all of the members of your caucus in the National Assembly support the coalition and support the President?
They do 100%. You see, before we took this decision, we, as a head of election and as part of the team that was assembled, led by the Secretary General, we presented to the National Executive Committee various options that were before us, given the outcome of the 29 May elections. And the NEC had an extensive discussion. We canvassed various options and various perspectives about what can be done. There was a view about, for instance, forming a grand coalition. There was a view about forming a minority government. There was a view about the ANC becoming an opposition. And after a long discussion, we came to the conclusion that the first thing that must be primary in our consideration is what we define as the national interest. And what are those national interests? We've got to ensure that the country is stable, and therefore the ANC can't sit on the opposition benches, because nobody will have a capacity to mobilize all political parties towards the formation of the government. The second is that we can't be without a government for a longer time after the elections, because there are many, many challenges which are confronting our people. The challenges of unemployment, the challenges of the service delivery that has to be carried out in various levels of government. Those things can't wait. So the ANC decided that it would be in the best interest of the ANC to approach this new administration within the context of establishing what we call a government of national unity. So all of us in the ANC were unanimous on that position. And I knew even as we went to Parliament that the ANC detachment was absolutely loyal to that position, and they all voted in line with the position of the movement. And of course, the support to the president, as you would have noticed, went beyond the parties that essentially had agreed on the GNU, which meant that there's more members of parliament who are quite willing to support this concept, and with President Ramaphosa as a preeminent leader of that direction.
So, from what you're saying, as Chief Whip of the ANC in the National Assembly right now, you think this government will last the full 5 years, the full term?
I'm very confident about that, very certain, and I know it's not going to be an easy process. It's going to require leadership. It's going to require massive negotiations and engagement between ourselves as members of the parties who have assented to the GNU. But it needs leadership. I'm quite convinced as the ANC Chief Whip that we have what it takes to live up to the demand of the moment.
And Dumiseni and Tilly, thank you very much. You're at the inauguration, I presume, and that's the noise that we're hearing behind you. Still quite cold there, I'm sure.
Yes, Steve. I'm on the bus that is shuttling us to the venue.
Okay.
That's why there's a bit of an intervention in terms of the background.
Okay, well, tell them all that we say good morning. And Dumiseni and Tuli.
I will sort do that. Thank you very much.
Dumiseni and Tuli, thank you, Chief Whip, for the African National Congress in the National Assembly. Well, it's going to be a very interesting place to watch. In a moment, the PAC on why they've decided to join the coalition, 19 minutes after 7.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
The Trilidor Ultimate Big Blue Sale is now on. Get amazing discounts on the best security South Africans trust. With over 50 franchises across the country, you can always find a security expert near you. So call 0861 Trilidor or visit trilidor.co.za today. Terms and conditions apply.
Set in a gleaming new high-tech trauma center that deals with only the most serious cases, an emergency medical team must battle through the crucial first hour of care to save lives that hang in the balance. Each distinctive case is told with a thrilling intensity and nail-biting urgency as the team work on the very edge of the medically possible. This is a medical drama like no other. This is Critical. Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 11 June. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Good morning, you with SAFM this morning. Well, an announcement yesterday, quite late yesterday in fact, from the Pan-African Congress of Azania that it wants to join the new coalition government. The PAC won one seat in the National Assembly in the elections. Apa Poe is the Secretary General of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. Apa, good morning. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, and thanks for inviting us. Good morning to all your listeners.
Why do you want to join the new coalition government?
We as PAC have decided that nothing can be done without us in this country. We have decided that we cannot stand on the sideline when the issues or matters that affect the country are decided. We decided to be part of the table that is going to discuss the future and determine the future of this country. As the PAC, we believe that we can firmly put matters that affect our people strongly on the table, matters that relates to the restitution of land, matters that relates to service delivery. We believe that as the PAC, we've got ideological clarity, historical credentials to be able to do that as an organization.
You talk about the ideological clarity, and a major part of that for you, many people, but for you in particular, is around the restitution of land. You will now be in a cabinet with the Democratic Alliance, which does not campaign for the restitution of land. I mean, you have very different views on land and how this should be dealt with. Do you really think you can sit in a cabinet with the DA?
Yes, because we believe that we've got superior logic. You know, Stephen, there's this misnomer amongst many people that once Africans get involved with the so-called whites, somehow we will be outmaneuvered. We want to prove that wrong. We want to prove that inferiority complex mentality wrong. As the PAC, we want to prove that we will be able to match or whichever organization that is part of that government of national unity on equal ground. We believe that we are capable of advancing what the PAC stands for in that government of national unity. We believe that we are capable of advancing what the Africans wish for in that so-called government of national unity.
You've got just one seat in the National Assembly. Is this about trying to get a seat in cabinet? Is this about position?
No, it's not. It's not. We have not even demanded any seat in the cabinet. Our view is that we can make a contribution. As I said, we have struggle credentials that we bring to the table. We've got the history, and we are one of the long-serving political. Well, we are the longest established liberation movement in this country. So we believe that that contribution is important, and we want also to make sure that we steer away the national government, the current setup of a government of national unity, away from right-wing tendencies, and we believe that we are capable of that despite the numbers.
Ape Pue, thank you, Secretary General of the PAC.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
To the Union Buildings now, the site of the inauguration later this morning. Mzwandile Mbeja is the political editor here at the SABC. Mzwai, good morning. What's the scene there? Still quite cold.
Well, a very good morning to you, Stephen, and the listeners. Indeed, there is a number of people who are already streaming in here at the amphitheater ahead of that big event that will take place later today. So clearly, there does appear to be some excitement here, but it's mainly the dignitaries and the officials here, and the people who will also come and witness this will be on the South Lawn. So everything seems to be on track now. Everything has been dusted, and it seems everyone is ready to receive the new president.
There's a huge amount of interest in this inauguration from different parts of the world, and we've seen a lot of leaders from our continent, from Africa, coming through.
Indeed, you'd recall that this is a historic moment in many ways. 30 years later, Stephen, we find ourselves faced with the government of national unity, albeit with different characteristics. But the fact of the matter is that this is what we are. And there's that interest from other stakeholders to see how it's done. Particularly, I was watching yesterday some of the leaders from the SADC region, and particularly those who are aligned to the ANC. And many of them perhaps would have found it very difficult to then accept defeat, or rather to accept to lose elections. But here is their colleague is very out and about and basically saying, well, we accept the will of the South Africans and then we will then act accordingly. And I think so many lessons that they are taking. And then, of course, as South Africa, I'm sure there's a lot more we'll also take from these leaders. And I think President Ramaphosa, as he constructs this cabinet, he probably will be able to tap into their experience as well, because relatively, Stephen, we are still a young democracy, but of course showing a lot of leadership in many areas.
Mzwandile Mbeshe, thank you, political editor here at the SABC. All right, part of our team covering the inauguration. The oath to be taken from around 11 o'clock. You'll hear the inauguration here live on SAFM. Good morning, 27 after 7.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Otniel Bartman, one of the finds of the tournament.
Absolutely, Stephen. He's bowling like a legend. They're making those wickets tumble for the Proteas. Now, since his debut 27 days ago, the 31-year-old fast bowler has proven to be a clutch player, notably defending 7 runs in the final over against Nepal. Now, as the Proteas face co-hosts the USA in the Super 8 stage this afternoon, Bartman knows that he'll play a crucial role in the Proteas' success.
If you represent your country at any given format is amazing, but to do it in the World Cup is magnificent. I've been enjoying this journey so far, and I can't wait to do it more often. It's been really good for 4 games for the team. It didn't go according to plan, but at the end of the day, we didn't play our best cricket, but we still go over the line. And hopefully we can continue on that.
And the first ball will be bowled at 4:30 this afternoon. Rugby now. The Springboks 7 squad are keen to make their third opportunity to qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympics count and join their regular foes at the Rugby Sevens event in Paris. France, New Zealand, Argentina, Fiji, Australia, Ireland, USA and Samoa have all confirmed their spots for Paris, and having beaten all of them during the HSBC 7 seasons, the South Africans will want to join them at the Olympic showpace. Now, the Springboks need to win the World Rugby Sevens repechage in Monaco come Sunday. More rugby, flanker Peter Steph du Toit will captain an under-strength South African team in a one-off test against Wales at Twickenham on Saturday, the 22nd of June. This test is played outside the international window, which means regular captain Siya Kolisi is unavailable. The Bok coach Rassie Erasmus has included 7 players from the World Cup final in the starting lineup, alongside 4 uncapped players, 2 of whom will start. Here's the Bok coach Rassie Erasmus.
What we're trying to do is just make sure that we still are where we are and where we can be and where we were last year in terms of our core things, how we play the game. Can we still do those things? I think that's the most important thing.
Tennis action. Italy's Yannick Sinner made it 5 wins out of 5 against Telon Grikspor yesterday, and in the process booked his place in the last 16 at the Halle Open. 6-7, 6-3, 6-2 was the scoreline. And the second seed Alex de Minaur suffered a first round exit at the Queen's Club, crumbling against Lorenzo Musetti. And in his 1000th match at the ATP Tour, Andy Murray turning back the years, shocking Alexei Popyrin at the Queen's Club. Starting his final tournament in this part of the west of the capital, there was a build-up for Wimbledon. The 37-year-old Scot came through 6-3, 3-6, 6-3 against the 24-year-old from Australia. Murray is a record 5-time champion at the Queen's Club. And finally, women's action. Victoria Azarenka defeated Maria Sakkari 6-4, 6-2 to reach the second round of the Berlin Open. More sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. More from the inauguration over the next half hour, more from the Electoral Commission as well. You with SFM leading the conversation. Good morning, 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will today officiate the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will be inaugurated at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. The newly elected Limpopo Premier Poppy Ramathuba has announced members of her executive council. Ramathuba says gender parity and ethical leadership influenced her decision for appointing the 10 cabinet members. And Vodacom's forensic liaison supervisor is expected back on the stand in the Senzo Mehiwa trial at the High Court in Pretoria. 5 men are on trial for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Fairly heavy in Pretoria, both sides of the lockdown area for today's inauguration. Hamilton Street coming through is heavy, and then you've got roads like Pretoria Road, the Kilnerton section. You've got Gordon Road, Pretoria Street coming off the N4 on the Hatfield side. So basically, you've got Soutpansberg Road in the north closed, Stansabo Puppy in the south closed, and then from sort of Hamilton Street through the Union Buildings, through Eastwood down towards Hatfield, all shut down. So a lot of congestion, as you can imagine, with those through routes being closed to traffic, big build-ups, and probably will get busier as well over the next hour or so. The N1 South coming through Midrand, heavy this morning, queues from Old Joburg Road down to about New Road, just volume of traffic, interestingly. N3 Germiston through to Edenvale is looking quite heavy as well. Durban's Umgeni Road. After protesting in the Springfield area this morning, traffic is flowing both ways. Still very slow. Hammersdale to Key Ridge after an earlier crash around the Peacevale area. And Durban's N2, chock-a-block both ways, coming north through Spaghetti Junction and southbound from Inanda Road. Heavy backlogs there. Cape Town, pretty gentle morning, as again we saw it yesterday, a real sort of lack of traffic with school holidays. Your busiest highways, the N1 inbound, the M5 north up towards the Kubo interchange from Rondebosch, and don't forget the 538 closure in Mpumalanga. This is a key route. It's the route that links you from the N4 up in Bombela up towards Kareen, up towards the Kruger Mpumalanga International Airport. So the airport down to Bombela, 538 obstructed with protesting. Give yourself plenty of time to get to or from the airport, as you in all likelihood will be diverted onto possibly alternative routes. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
In Taoleng, morning again. How are the markets?
Kicking things off in Asia, equities are mostly in the green following yet another record day in the US, fueled by data that boosted interest rate cut hopes, though expectations were tempered by cautious comments from Fed officials. And with that, we saw a 0.05% rise in the Japanese Nikkei and Hong Kong's Hang Seng jumping over 2%. In Wall Street, futures are pretty flat. Trading in the US will be closed on account of a holiday today. So not much trading from that side of the world. Back at home, sentiment has been upbeat with SA Inc. stocks hitting highs while the all share jumped close to 4% at yesterday's close, fueled by a near 7% increase in the financial 15. The local unit in the meantime, also trading stronger, boosted by local and global sentiment. It's currently sitting at 18.04 to the dollar.
And then Telkom swinging back to profitability.
Yes, Stephen, Telkom's fortunes have turned. As you mentioned, it's back in the black, reporting a full-year profit of 1.9 billion rand, recovering from a loss in the previous period. Now, the group has pointed to an improved operational performance characterized by the non-recurrence of once-off restructuring costs and lower depreciation. Those costs fell to 80 million rand from over 13 billion rand in the previous period. Telkom managed to grow its subscriber numbers and made way with selling its non-core assets, resulting in improved revenue of 43.2 billion rand, which is an increase of 1.6%. Moving forward, the group says it's focused on reducing its debt levels and freeing up cash. So once that is under control, it would consider resuming dividend payments. Telkom says it's eyeing a resumption of dividends in the near term, targeting its 2025 financial year.
And then Time Bank eyeing listings on the JSE and in New York.
That's right, Stephen. Now, the group is engaged in its fourth capital raise, where it aims to attract about 2.7 billion rand in funds before it lists. Now, Time Bank says it will list on the New York Stock Exchange and the JSE, with New York as its primary listing and the JSE as a secondary listing. This will take place in 2028. Now, ahead of the move, it's eyeing another capital raise pegged for 2026. The digital bank CEO Gwen Yonka said a listing in New York makes more sense for the business as those markets are more liquid. And it's noted that most of its investors are from international markets, besides, of course, Ethos Capital and Patrice Motsepe's ARC investment. Ahead of the IPO, the group is looking to continue to penetrate the Southeast Asian region, looking at launching a range of products and partnering with retailers in Vietnam and Indonesia.
Intel Lenglet Chelep, thank you so much. Back, of course, tomorrow. More business news through the day here on SAFM.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Well, lots to talk about this morning. There is, of course, the new coalition government. There is the opposition to the coalition government coming largely from Umkhonto weSizwe and from the EFF. MK saying they won't be at the inauguration today. There's the inauguration itself. There's who you want in cabinet. You heard from the DA MEC for finance in KwaZulu-Natal. Kind of still got to get used to saying that. And I don't know what's going to happen in the other provinces. Very interesting to see how that's going to play out. But your views on all of it. There is a lot to talk about this morning on 086 000 2032. Tuelo on the line from Kimberley in the Northern Cape. Hi, the new government. Go for it.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, Stephen, you see this GNU, for me personally, I'm not an NK member, I'm an ANC member, but it does not sit well with me.
Yeah.
You see, for me, you can even check, even in the Western Cape, there the DA is governing in totality. There's nowhere where they say no, they will give maybe the African National Congress a lucrative portfolio, maybe a portfolio of finance.
I think the same is true in places where the ANC governs in Limpopo and the Eastern Cape, for example. They're not giving seats, as I understand it, to the DA.
Yes. No, it's true. It's true. What I'm just trying to drive home is, check for instance in KZN. They have a big portfolio. Finance, MEC of Finance, it's a big portfolio compared to the other portfolio. Because if you'll be running, it means now the DA is in control of KZN, and the DA is also in control of Western Cape. You see, so my point is this thing, you can just see the direction it's moving. It's actually only to serve the DA. You see, you can even check now where I am here in the Northern Cape. Check the issue of Orania.
Yeah,
Orania. It's perceived to be a Freedom Front base here in the Northern Cape. What happened to the Rainbow Nation? Those people are not part of us. I'm here in Kimberley. They are just living in a secluded area. They are using their own currency. It's business as usual. Because of the last time also, our secretary said we will be staying there. We'll buy a land there. We are still waiting for a black person to go and stay there.
Yeah. Tuela, I've got to tell you, I mean, one of the reasons that I was very happy we spoke to the leader of the Freedom Front Plus yesterday was just my own astonishment and surprise at that deal in the Northern Cape. I mean, there are surely other deals the ANC could have made. I was so surprised to see that.
Yes, all of us. But check, Stephen, this thing cascades down.
Yeah.
You see, this thing is an element of lily white. You can check there. There's a video of the Minister of Electricity or the guy of the Freedom Front, how they were laughing there. You see. So this Mangal moves, it starts there and it hits bottom at the bottom. So you can see the negotiation happened there. It's just phone calls that no, in the Northern Cape do this. You see.
Yeah. No, Tuelo, I hear you. Thank you in Kimberley. Thank you. Monwabisi in Cape Town. Do you agree with Tuelo?
The thing is, I would like not to talk about what he is talking about, but for me, it's to recommend Cyril Ramaphosa. You know, this guy has been a great president since coming in 2019. Look today, the ANC has fallen under 50%, but the guy decided instead of dividing the agency, he decided to unite the agency, not only the ANC, but with the opposition.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, the guy decided to draw the party line and put South Africa first, which is something that we last saw in South Africa before 2009. 2009, it was all ANC first, all the leftists in the ANC first. The left wing in the ANC believe in looting and stealing, but Ramaphosa believes in stealing. Look, for instance, today, the Telkom has made a profit, which is something never happened since 2009, which is, I'm sure many other state-owned enterprises will follow suit.
Monwabisi, I think Telkom has made profits, and it's a slightly curious state-owned entity because I think the state only owns about 40% of it. So, but I hear your greater point.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for taking my call.
No.
I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome, Monwabisi. Thank you on the line from Cape Town. Katlego also in Cape Town. I don't know if you're sitting next to Monwabisi or completely in a different part. You want to talk about the DA on land, Katlego? Hi.
Yes, Stephen. When you're interviewing the
PAC.
yes, you indicated that the DA does not support the restitution program.
I said they disagree.
But
yeah.
I wanted to say that they don't disagree. What they disagree with is the nationalization and or expropriation of land without compensation.
Yeah.
I'm involved in the land reform program, and I can tell you now that under the DA government, the city of Cape Town, the provincial government, through human settlements and public works, have released vast land parcels towards restitution. And they is it for free and at times for what is called the historical amount, meaning the amount that would have been paid at the time of dispossession, which would be 2,000. So I just wanted to correct this thing where you say they don't support it. I say they don't support the expropriation without compensation and or nationalization, but they have supported the restitution program and the land reform program in general, and particularly in the Western Cape.
Okay. No. All right, Katlego. Thank you. Now I will take that. I'll accept your you know what the politicians call it when they get something wrong, Katlego? Their clarification. So
okay. All right, Stephen.
I'll accept that. Thank you, Katlego. No, I appreciate that. Let's go to Xolani and eThekwini. Xolani, hi. The new government. Good morning.
Good morning, SG. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Go for it.
I'm good. Stephen, I'd like to take you back. Remember when Ramaphosa came in, he said Tumamina.
I do remember, yes, in 2018,
Now it's a real Tumamina because he does not have prerogative to appoint ministers. This is as per the interview by Clement Manyathela with Helen Zille.
Mm-hmm.
The ANC the president will have to consult, and there's a clause, I think clause 24 or something to that effect says he cannot make any decision without consulting the partners.
I don't know if it's any decision, Xolani, but basically big decisions that need political support. My understanding is that they will need the DA. But I mean that's what happens. The DA can't do anything without the ANC too. But anyway, continue.
No. What I was saying is that this is the real Tumamina because now the ANC will have to report somewhere to be too much to go somewhere and do what is right. But now the concern here, Stephen, is that us as people on the ground, this thing, how does it reflect to us? Are we going to get services, or it's just people now ganging up, forming this new government that they say it's inclusive to all? But I'm afraid that it will somehow sideline the needs of the people in Guamashu, the needs of the people.
Black people, you mean? Poor people?
In essence, yes, because now, yes, the market should be happy because this is what they've been saying that they will be happy with. But now, how does it come down to us here at the ground?
Sure.
In us finding jobs, in us being able to meet our ends.
Xolani, we're doing a mediated conversation on this in about an hour. And one of the questions for me is to my mind, and I'm no expert on these things, but to my mind, I'll try and be an expert, but you cannot win an election in this country only through looking after minority groups alone, right? I mean, that's obvious to me.
Correct.
So this government stands and falls essentially on whether it provides services, and I think probably crucially jobs, to young people and black people in particular, if I can use that ANC phrase. That's the test of this government, really.
Exactly. Let's hope for the best, Stephen. And before, on my parting ways, with the SG from the PAC, what you said about them having superior logics, credentials and all, now it's a game of numbers, Stephen. You pointed him that they only have one seat but he kept on saying that they will push their own ideology and all and all. I don't see it coming. It's a game of numbers. We've seen that document that was signed by only two representatives, not everyone, but all is well. Thank you very much.
No, Kolani, I hear you. I mean, I agree with you. I think you can't get away from the numbers in this. The numbers really matter in this. You're with SAFM. 086-000-2032 is the number. And of course, so much to talk about ahead of the Government of National Unity or the coalition government or whichever phrase you prefer. Due to speak to the Electoral Commission in a few moments about these issues as well. Let's go to Madao on the line from Cape Town. Madao, good morning. Have I got your name correct?
Yes, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, Madal. Go for it.
Good. I like your show.
Thank you. Welcome.
You see here, I heard about, I'm listening it from the morning when you start. I heard about PEC I've got one seat. They want to join.
Yes, the PAC, yeah.
Yeah, they've been in politics for a long time.
Yes.
They don't succeed. So now they don't know where they are. They just want to join, and then they did have a lot of time. They didn't use it, so they must just forgive and they just follow other people.
Yeah.
And then we go for we give somebody here in your show, last show, say we give the land to the whites.
Mm.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the person who phoned about the quote from Hendrik Verwoerd? We said it was a quote from Hendrik Verwoerd. I haven't been able to nail it down.
Yes, he's talking in nonsense because we've been given a lot of time to govern this country for 30 years, but we didn't succeed also. So we do need a help from the white people. And then our people, they always say, black, white people. We didn't manage for all this time. They must just forget. For the white and the black, and we need help from the white people.
Madao, look, I mean, I think your sentiment's a very important one. I get very nervous, and I think if you've listened to the show over the last 3 years, you might know this. I get very nervous when we talk about governance in just racial terms, that we need help from this group or this group's better at governing than that group, because I don't see any evidence of that, and I keep using the same point, Barack Obama is black and Donald Trump is white. Who would you prefer in government? These things go in many directions. So I hear what you're saying, and I think your sentiment may be correct, but and certainly is constructive, but to try and sort of define governance by racial groups or designations, I don't think that works. That worries me quite a lot.
Yeah, it worries me a lot. Our people talk nonsense all the time. They must be wake up. Look here, America is united.
Yeah, but it's not. But this is my point: is that you can't say that my people meaning all white people, or black people, or colored people, or Indian people. Do you see what I mean? I mean, I understand I think I understand what you're trying to say. It makes me very nervous because I don't think we can speak for racial groups.
That can be spoken by the person who are not educated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, Madao. But I mean, I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. I mean, just thank you, Madao. Just to say, like I always get very nervous about narrowing things down to racial groups. I don't think it works. 086-000-2032, 11 minutes to 8.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very busy around Pretoria this morning, eastern side of the CBD. The road closures, extensive closures from the Union buildings out to Hatfield. Basically, Soutpansberg Road in the north through to Stanzibopapi in the south. Arcadia through to Hatfield. That whole sort of couple of blocks all shut down. So if you're coming in on Hamilton Street down from Gazina, quite big backlogs there. Also a lot of congestion out on the Hatfield side. Soutpansberg Road closed at Gordon Road, so all that traffic has to then reroute down to Hatfield. Kilnerton Road coming in, Pretoria Street into Hatfield, all very busy, and obviously some disruption north of Soutpansberg as you have to come off that route and detour onto other routes. It's busy this morning. It will be busy as you drive home through that area this afternoon, and probably busy all day long, I would think. Jervix N1, pretty heavy today from Bayers Nordia right through to the Buccleuch interchange. There looks like a police issue, again on the ramps to the N1 North Midrand. So if you're coming up from Rivonia Road or you're coming coming through from Limbro Park. The N1 and N3 are queuing into Buccleuch and to hit that ramp to the N1 for a turn up to the Midrand area. N1 out of Pretoria, quite slow this morning. Old Joburg Road to New Road. The N1 onto the N14 Ben Scooben Highway being held up around Brockfontein Interchange. Durban bound coming from Pietermaritzburg. Truck crash recovery underway in the Peacevale area. It looks like the road might be temporarily closed as you come down to that scene. It's a really heavy backlog today. Also, Mgeta Road has been reopened after earlier protesting in the Springfield area, so you'll be able to get through there. Cape Town, a couple of issues. One is a crash on the N2 outbound at Hospital Bend, so there's some delays there. R300 queuing passing the Stellenbosch Arterial on your way towards Kales River. That's the R300 north. And a crash at Somerset West on the N2 inbound at Gants Park. That's causing quite a heavy backlog coming through from the Heidelberg side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
9 minutes to 8 the time. Good morning. The Electoral Commission has now carried out its final reconciliation of the votes from 2 of the 3 ballots that you voted on Election Day. So 2 of the ballot papers were what's described as the national ballot and the regional ballot. And the 3rd ballot was the provincial ballot. Now, let's put the provincial ballot to one side for a moment because it's entirely separate. The final figures have now been updated that incorporate or put together the national ballot and the regional ballot. If you go to the IEC website, you'll see N+R. They're talking about the national ballot and the regional ballot. The Deputy Chief Electoral Officer at the Electoral Commission is Msego Shaburi. Mr. Shaburi, good morning. I imagine you thought you were done with talking to me for this election.
Mr. Grootes, good morning. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Indeed, just a small correction.
Yes.
The total tally occurred on the 2nd of June. So what we have done is just to improve the accessibility of the information on our website. We had thought we had been more transparent by categorizing it into regional votes and national votes separate. We have come to accept that it causes even more confusion. So what we have done now is we've changed how the data is packaged and projected to users of that data, in that we have now aggregated, which is what the law requires. You aggregate the votes of a party obtained in any of the regions as well as the votes of the party obtained on the national to national ballot, removing the votes cast for independence, so that we have a result that results in general in proportional representation. So the results as updated have not changed the results that were declared and the seats that were assigned on the 2nd of June.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. This can get quite technical. So basically what that means is you changed the numbers on your website, but it doesn't change because you were putting things together, but it does not change the number of seats that parties receive in Parliament. And I know people like me have been reporting on percentages for ages. This election's really about seats in Parliament and the provincial legislatures. They have not changed at all.
They have not changed. If you had gone to our website before the 7th of June and we did the update, a person would have seen the results for the National Assembly, and those results would not have included the results of parties obtained from the regions. To get those, a person would have needed to take 2 additional steps to access that component of the National Assembly results. So what we've done, we've drawn them up together and presented them as the law requires, in that they are an aggregate of votes obtained on 2 ballots, which is the national ballot as well as the regional ballot cast in the 9 provincial in the 9 provinces.
Okay. So you say you did this now. When the election result was proclaimed, the Sunday after the election, remember the ceremony, the result has not changed since then. But why did you change the way in which you display the numbers?
Okay. The results, as we all know, were declared on the 2nd of June. Why we changed the numbers, we had received a number of inquiries, people confused. They say, why, if you say the seats in the National Assembly are 400, but when you go to our website, you only get results for only the 200 seats. So having learned lessons from that, we then combined all the votes for parties in respect of that election. The changes only apply to seats and results of the National Assembly. They do not apply to provincial legislatures, because in that component of the election, we have had not to make any updates or changes in how we package and present the data.
Okay. And then just help me with my memory here. This was because of the regional system was basically imposed on you by Parliament. You were implementing the system they agreed to include independent candidates.
Indeed, the system has always been that you cast votes both regionally and nationally. However, with the introduction of independence, with the amendment to the Electoral Act, what that meant is that now you can't do that. You can't achieve that on a single ballot. You have to introduce the second ballot to accommodate independence. So if we had kept the scheme as it was, it would be even more confusing. That's why we combined the results so that whoever wants access to data, they can access data in a manner that they can find it useful.
One day, Mr. Shaburi, you'll get enough sleep to recover from the election. Maybe a month from now.
Thank you.
Masego Shaburi is the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer at the Electoral Commission. 4 minutes to 8.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
Lots going on this morning, of course. We've got the inauguration, which is the big event, and I think maybe at some point after that, the Cabinet. Let's just check in with the inauguration very quickly. You heard from Mzondile Mbeshe a little earlier at the Union Buildings. Lots of disruptions to traffic in that area this morning. The spokesperson for the Tshwane Metro Police Department is Isaac Mahamba. Isaac, good morning. You've got heads of state there, you've got the Chief Justice there, you've got the head of Parliament there, and of course you'll have the President there as well. I imagine lots of disruptions to traffic and a massive security operation.
Good morning, Stevens, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, indeed. Today we have this operation here at Union Buildings and streets surrounding Sunnyside Fairfield. We started with a soft lock last in the afternoon. So this morning around 1:30 a.m. we went to a complete street closure. So streets around those areas that I've mentioned are heavily affected. I name your Gordon Road, Hilda, Festival Street, Pine Street, Lake Street. I can't name all of them, Stephen, due to time. I'm just advising the members of the public to say if they want to follow those streets, they can go to our Facebook page at Tshwane Metropolis Department and they'll see those streets there. But we are urging motorists to use alternative routes such as Pretoria Street, Park Street, Detroit Street, Greef Street, Frederica Street, and Justice Mahomet Street. What we can inform the members of the public is that we are anticipating the arrival of buses from all the provinces. And as soon as those buses, they get into the surrounding of Union Buildings, they'll park there, and the passengers will be screened. After being screened, when we are satisfied that they are safe, they'll then be allowed into Union Buildings. Then the motorists that wants to drive to the event, they are not allowed near the vicinity of the Union Buildings. They can go to Tsorak, known as showgrounds in Pretoria West, and they can park their vehicles there, and they'll be shuttled to Union Buildings. Again, when they get there, they also have to go the very same processes of being screened, and after we are satisfied that they are safe, then they'll be allowed into the Union Building. But so far so good. We're anticipating that these streets will remain closed for entire day until the event ends, right about in the evening.
Obviously, people moving around is going to be quite difficult. The event, as you say, only ends. You know, the main event of it will be done from 1, but then there's the entertainment and the performances afterwards. That'll take some time too.
Indeed, Stephen, but remember we have a VOC where it's controlling everything. As and when we see that there's a necessity, to open certain streets, we'll definitely do that. We don't want to inconvenience the members of the public, but we are advised by the, approved structures, as indicated that the VOC, it's monitoring the whole thing. So as we see that the crowd gets better, we might, ease some of the traffic just to open certain streets, but that will be decided by the structure that I've just mentioned.
Isaac Mahamba, thanks very much indeed. Spokesperson for the Tshwane Metro Police Department, and of course a very, very busy time for them this morning, as you can imagine. So much going on around that inauguration. You'll hear it, of course, later this morning with Kathy. She'll bring that to you through the morning here on SAFM. A lot more to come. We'll play our competition in just a moment. Looking forward to that. Also, of course, your mediated conversation on our new government. Good morning. You're with SAFM leading the conversation. It's 8 o'clock. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43517 now.
In our top stories, the inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa and Limpopo Premier announces members of the Executive Council. Good morning. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will today officiate the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will be inaugurated at the Union Buildings in Pretoria before heads of states of some countries and other dignitaries as well as other political party leaders. Zuleka Kodashe reports.
President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa has ceased to be a member of parliament since his election as president in the National Assembly last week, in accordance with the constitution. It also prescribes that the president-elect must assume office within 5 days. Ramaphosa will take an oath to pledge his loyalty to South Africa and the constitution. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, as the head of the judiciary, will officiate this process. The judiciary has been an integral part of this constitutional process since the handing over of the list by the IEC and the swearing-in of MPs last Friday.
South Africans who arrived at the Union Buildings at the crack of dawn have expressed elation at the opportunity to be part of the inauguration of South Africa's president in the country's 7th administration. These ladies who travelled from the Free State spoke to SABC News about the excitement to witness the inauguration.
I'm here today in the morning. I want to see my president face to face because all the time I saw him on television. I am very, 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 very excited. He's a very good man. He's a man of his words. I'm very happy.
I'm feeling to see my president. I'm feeling very nice.
The newly elected Limpopo Premier Poppy Ramathuba has announced members of her Executive Council. Ramathuba says gender parity and ethical leadership influenced her decision for appointing the 10 cabinet members. She retained 4 of the MECs from the previous administration. She says the new MECs have been tasked to ensure that Limpopo becomes an employment hub for young people.
Department of Education, Ms. Mabungu Lurudi Ramakanya. Department of Health, Ms. Mashiho Dieketseng Masesi. Cooperative Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs, Mr. Baisko Makamu. The Social Development, Ms. Furupelo Radzirani. Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Maseko Funani Jerry. Limpopo Provincial Treasury, Mr. Mawai Habu Elias. Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, Mr. Chitareke Matibe. Public Works, Roads and Infrastructure, Mr. Rachweni Sibatau Ernest. Agriculture and Rural Development, Ms. Kekana Nakedi Grace. Transport and Community Safety, Ms. Mate Susana Violet.
The IEC in KwaZulu-Natal says it's not anticipating challenges with the voter management device, the VMD, in today's by-elections. In the May 29th polls, challenges with the VMD meant delays in the voting process at some stations. By-elections are taking place in 12 wards. The ANC has suspended 7 councillors when they voted with the opposition to remove an ANC mayor. 6 of those suspended councillors resigned, announcing they would join the MK party. The IEC's Provincial Electoral Officer Ntombi Futi Masinga.
We have by-elections in 12 wards in the province, and those are spread across 7 municipalities. The majority of them are in Umzumbe municipality, where we saw a total of 6 wards going into by-elections. All of them are resignations, except for one in Umzumbe, which is a termination, and one in Umzimkhulu, which is a death. The municipalities involved is Umzumbe, Umvoti, Newcastle, Upongola, Kwanongoma, Melmoth, and Umzimkhulu municipality. The total number of voting stations that will be open are 72 across all the 12 wards.
Vodacom's Forensic Liaison Supervisor is expected back on the stand in the Senzo Mehiwa trial at the High Court in Pretoria. 5 men are on trial for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain. Pinky Vaithaligam is expected to unpack a summary of some RICA information pertaining to the phone numbers of the accused.
The manner in which the integrity of the call data is maintained is therefore reliable. The summary that I am about to read to you explains the MSISDN, the person that it was recurred to, and that is actually a short form of this big document of 282 pages.
And finally, SANParks has honoured firefighters who battled more than 100 large fires in the Table Mountain National Park area this past fire season. The ceremony in Cape Town was held to thank the firefighters for their bravery and firefighting efforts. Around 200 firefighters battled extensive fires, which destroyed more than 6,000 hectares of vegetation across the park during the past fire season. Recapping the top story, the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will today officiate the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will be inaugurated at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Thank you. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and R1 million liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43517. Forget everything else for a moment and listen to this. Outsurance Essential is a custom-designed and perfectly priced car insurance product available to owners of unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued under 125,000 Rand. But the real game changer is the fact that your claim is paid out in cash, which gives you the freedom to choose any panel beater of your choice. SMS CAR to 43187 for an Outsurance Essential quote. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSB. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, cricket, the Proteas are set to kick off the Super 8 stage. They are up against the United States, the co-hosts, and we also have rugby. The Blitzboks are in Monaco this weekend, aiming to secure their spot in the 2024 Paris Olympics at the Rugby Sevens repechage. All this and more just before 8:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty heavy weights on Joburg's highways, N3 North and N1 North, heading into links to the N1 Midrand at Buccleuch interchange. Just factor in some queue time. The N3 backing to Alex, the N1 North backing through towards the Fourways area as well. Just some delays coming along Clip River Drive through Southdale. There's some traffic lights down as you make your way through to Boyson, so that is quite an unusual queue. Driving out of Pietermaritzburg down to Durban, you need plenty of time to get through a breakdown at Linfield Park. That is heavy all the way back past Ashburton, and then queue number 2 between Hammersdale and Key Ridge as you approach a recovery of a truck crash scene in the Cliffdale area. Durban's N2 South is heavy into Spaghetti Junction, and there's a crash at Pavilion Mall holding up traffic on the N3 heading into Durban as well. Cape Town, second day of a pretty easy run through the traffic into the CBD area. The N1 is the heaviest highway again, Goodwood through to the elevated freeway, and a crash at Somerset West Gants Park area, quite badly holding traffic on the N2 inbound towards that scene, and an impact on the outbound side as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
Good morning, you're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Big morning this morning. The inauguration coming up 3 hours from now. The proceedings will have started. Will be a lot warmer, I think, at the Union Buildings by then. Still pretty chilly on the Highveld this morning. We'll be talking, of course, more about our politics and how it's going to change. Professor Stephen Friedman, Dr. Ralph Mateja joining you for your mediated conversation this morning. We'll talk about zinc in the oceans in a moment, and we'll play our auto and general competition as well. Lots to look forward to. 9 minutes after 8.
The Trellidor Ultimate Big Blue Sale is now on. Get amazing discounts on the best security South Africans trust. With over 50 franchises across the country, you can always find a security expert near you. So call 0861 Trellidor or visit trellidor.co.za today. Terms and conditions apply.
Get private banking levels of service from an Auto and General private advisor. This exclusive service is perfectly tailored for customers with more to cover but less time to spend covering it. If you have more than a car to insure and your combined cover is valued at over 1 million Rand, you qualify for this personalized service. Enjoy after-hours assistance, proactive policy management and more when you apply at autogen.co.za. Auto in General. Never not there. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Santi Africa! The great Olympians are heading to Paris with courage, determination, and eagerness to raise the flag of Africa Zonga very high. Let's rally behind the well-decorated Team SA. Athletics, swimming, canoeing, climbing, gymnastics, and surfing. The winning mentality of Africa Chipembe will prevail. #the global battle of great athletes. Experience the Olympic Games Paris 2024 from Friday 26 July until Sunday 11 August. Live on SABC TV channels and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, good to hear from you this morning. Robert on the line from East London. Robert, hi. The inauguration, how are you feeling?
Morning, Stephen. I'm good this morning, sitting here watching the ocean and everything is lekker, yeah?
Yeah.
Anyway, my thoughts on the whole process, I think they're kicking it off all on the wrong foot. Starting with the first sitting in Cape Town was held in the ICC, costing 58 million. Why wasn't it held in the normal manner of in the
Cape Town City Hall, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's number one. Number two, if John Steenhuisen and Cyril Ramaphosa and Gayton McKenzie, who are in this Gulf conglomerate together, if it was their money they were spending, I wouldn't mind. But they're spending our money, our taxpayers' money. Having this huge inauguration, he is president, just slot him in as president again. Why have all of this voobar and spend millions when they're supposed to be bringing service delivery as a new government to the people? To me, they're kicking it off on the wrong foot. And I'm going to get a lot of flack about this, but so be it. It's my thoughts.
No, Robert, sure. You're welcome to your view from East London. Thank you. Mandla in Tshwane. Mandla, this issue of consultation in the new government. Hi.
Good morning. How are you, SG?
I'm well, Mandla. Go for it.
Good. I'm here in Pretoria. The scenery is amazing. But I want to find out, what will happen if now, considering that we have BRICS, so they have to go back and consult, and we know the stand of the DA in this status. What will happen? And then what will happen again when it comes to military interventions, deployments and stuff like that? Do they need to consult every day, knowing how?
Yeah, Mandla, that hasn't been worked out yet, but my sense is that a lot of power is in the president, so deploying the South African National Defence Force, that's up to the president. So I don't know, but maybe it would be good politics to consult, if you see what I mean. I don't know. I've got to tell you, you asked the most important question, actually, which is how much consultation is consultation.
And then between me and you, let's say the Minister of Foreign Affairs comes from the DA side.
Yeah.
Knowing that the BRICS, the foreign ministers they need and stuff like that. What will happen?
Yeah, I've got to say, I don't think that will happen. I think the ANC will keep that for themselves. I'm sure they will. I would.
Are they going to be happy, the opposition, the DA?
No one's going to be very happy.
It's just the reflection of our country, eh?
Indeed, yes. True. Mandla on the line from Tshwane. Thank you. Enjoy the view in Tshwane this morning. 13 after 8.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
This competition is brought to you by Auto and General Insurance. Stand to win your share of 30,000 Rand in the Auto and General Combine and Qualify competition. Visit www.safm.co.za to enter. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. All right, Auto and General is giving you a chance to win your share of 30,000 Rand in the Combine and Qualify competition. All you have to do is go to the SAFM website and complete the entry form. You might be the lucky contestant to get a call from us. We will present you with various objects that you can insure. If you combine the correct two that meet the qualifying criteria for a private advisor, you win 5,000 Rand. And if you got an obligation-free insurance quote from Auto and General, you'll win an extra 1,000 Rand, totaling your winnings to 6,000 Rand. It's that simple. Terms and conditions apply. Well, the person who entered, who we've got through to, who answered their phone this morning, excuse me, is Sandile. Sandile, good morning. Are you feeling lucky this morning, Sandile?
Hi, Stephen. Yes, I am feeling lucky.
You are feeling lucky. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, are you ready? Okay. Here's how it works. For you to qualify for the private advisor service, which two options would you combine to get you to close the collective amount of 1 million Rand? So, Sandile, to put it another way, I'm going to give you several options. You need to put two of them together to get over the 1 million Rand mark. If you get that right, you'll win 5,000 Rand. Okay, Sandile, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you the options first, then you tell me which two. Here we go. So, you and your family live in a 3-bedroom townhouse. It's worth over 2.1 million Rand. Your car is 450,000 Rand. All of the beautiful things inside your home are valued at 700,000 Rand. You also have a camera and lenses worth 30,000 Rand and a ring that costs 25,000 Rand. If you wanted to qualify for an Auto and General private advisor, which two of these items would you combine? Sandile, so these are the objects. You've got the townhouse at 2.1 million, the car at 450,000, household insurance at 700,000, the camera and lenses at 30,000, and the ring that costs 25,000. Which of those two things will you put together to get to over $1 million?
Oh, this one, it's going to be the one that is worth 700,000.
Well, so let me put it like this. Are you going to include the townhouse? Are you going to include the car, those two items? Are you going to include the camera and lenses, which are worth much less? What are you going to include? Which two items?
I'm going to include the car and the townhouse.
Sandile, congratulations. You've won 5,000 Rand.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Yes.
And Sandile, can I ask you, did you also get an obligation-free quote from Auto and General? Because if you did, you get an extra 1,000 Rand. Have you got such a quote?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes, thank you.
Sandile, congratulations. You've won another 1,000 Rand. So in total, you've won 6,000 Rand.
Oh, thanks a lot, Stephen.
All right, Sandile, you woke up feeling lucky, and obviously you are.
Yes, that's true. Yes. This is really exciting.
Sandile, thank you very much. Stay on hold for us, won't you? Sandile Kumalo is the competition winner today. He not only got the right answer, but he also got an obligation-free quote from Auto and General. That gave him the extra 1,000 Rand. So similar to private banking, this private advisor offers customers with a specialized service of having one point of contact when it comes to your insurance. For more information, you can visit Auto and General's website. It's autogen.co.za to find out more and apply for this service. This competition was brought to you by Auto and General Insurance. Never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP T's and C's online. You have it for banking, so why not for insurance? Auto and General has just introduced their exclusive new private advisor service. It's perfectly tailored for customers with more to cover but less time to spend covering it. If you have more than a car to insure, car and home, and your combined cover is valued at over 1 million Rand, you qualify for this personalized service and will enjoy after-hours assistance, proactive policy management, and much more. To apply, visit autogen.co.za. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP T's and C's online.
This year, we are celebrating Youth Month under the theme Actively Embracing the Socio-Economic Gains of Our Democracy. As we commemorate the massacre of school children during the Soweto Uprising of 1976, we also celebrate the liberation of our beloved country. #Freedom30. #Youth Month. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Let's go to Charlie and Coffee Fontaine. Charlie, hi, good morning. The new government, how are you feeling about it?
Not so great, Stephen.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because now, as it has been reported that the DA and the ANC are going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, Clement Ngatela reported that Helen Zille said that there's no agreement between them and the ANC regarding the PA. They have not been in contact.
Regarding the Patriotic Alliance, yeah.
Yes. So now there's one thing that I want to tell people. They don't know it, or they might not understand the repercussions behind this. But what the ANC has signed with the DA is going to be very, very difficult for them to implement any of their policies without the approval of the DA.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, then you get the DA. Let me say the DA, Helen Zille, who has become so arrogant that she thinks that the ANC or the country won't go forward without the DA. It simply means that the ANC can withdraw from this government of national unity and getting the ANC, the EFF and MK in it, and then the DA is out. So now, such thing, I don't know if you watched the clip yesterday. You cannot tell people, you cannot say something about someone who you are in coalition with or government of nation, or this person has no idea of what they have signed or no idea.
I was amazed to see that, yeah. That's an amazing thing to do.
So the arrogance of the DA thinks that they are holding all the cards right now. And unfortunately, their busboy, which is Cyril Ramaphosa, is the one. Yes. But remember, Cyril Ramaphosa is the president of the ANC. Cyril Ramaphosa does not make all the decisions.
Yeah.
He gets it from the national. If they say no, we want to relieve this thing of the DA, the marriage of the DA, because now these people are getting arrogant. We cannot go into implement any of our policy. Then they will leave, and the DA will code. It's simple like that. Then they also will go back to the EFF and the MK, and then because the DA does not have the numbers.
Yes. No, Charlie, what you say is very important. It's a very strange line because it's coming and going a little bit. But what you say is very important, and it gets to the heart of the dynamics and the relationship and the numbers within this thing. And so, there's a lot to sort of look at. I don't know how it's going to actually play out. Chris and eThekwini. Chris, hi. The government, do you agree with Charlie and Kofi Fontaine?
Well, partly yes, but I'm very worried about the levels of people skepticism and how they are holding themselves to the past, especially around race and so on. We have countries in Africa, Rwanda, where Tutsis and Hutus killed each other. Yeah. Right now, they've fought a country that is one of the fastest growing in the continent.
Yeah.
And what lessons can we draw from there? I think Kenya, one of the tribally polarized countries, is also moving forward. Are we ready as South Africans to move forward and forget? And we'd also like to quote the Freedom Charter. Freedom Charter says South Africa belongs to all who live in black and white. Yes. The modalities of building that South Africa is how we need to debate, not bring in race, bring in fear, and bring in tribes. The country needs to go forward. And I think South Africans need to resolve that amongst themselves, especially those who phone in talk shows, amongst themselves. Do they want a country that goes backward, or do they want a country that moves forward and prospers?
No, sure, Chris. And just to sort of state my own understanding of it, is that we're going to have issues around race for as long as we have racialized inequality. So, unfortunately, a long time to come, at least. Yanela on the line from Limpopo. Hi.
Morning, Stephen, and morning to your listeners. Stephen, first of all, I'd like to commend you. It's been quite a while that I've heard a person who's white who really understands, the nuances and everything that black people go through. Your understanding of what we go through, your level of reasoning, and how you tackle issues is really pleasing for me as an individual.
That's very kind. Thank you.
And for a lot of white people, that's what we hope for. We just hope for the understanding. We don't really want people to agree, but just to understand how these things make us feel as black people. Now, with regards to the government of national unity, it might seem for us, I was having this debate with my sister, that this government of national unity seems like a sellout. But, for my test personally, for something that will go right, it doesn't necessarily have to please everyone completely. Yeah. And that's a test for something that is going to go right, because if it does please one party completely, then it means it serves only that other party's interest.
That's such an important point, Yanela.
And now with our racial history, those racial tensions, this government of national unity really helps, because I appreciate the DA. I might not be fond of the DA, but I appreciate what they do, because they seem to be liberal, and everyone says neoliberal. But I am very skeptical of the DA because of such arrogance like Helen Zille. But what partnerships do is that they level out the arrogance, because a partnership doesn't really cater for the other person's arrogance. It caters for everyone in the partnership. And that's what this government of national unity will do. It will level out the arrogance that the ANC has had. And let's not forget, it has had arrogance as well in the past. Hence, it has lost the majority, because people are tired of that arrogance, coupled with the corruption. I love the EFF, but I don't think that they're ready to govern, because they're too polarized. I love the ANC, but they just became too arrogant and too corrupt over the years. I appreciate the Freedom Front, because they seem to stand for the minority, which is not always represented, and we can't forget about the minority.
Yanela, thank you very much indeed for that, and your sentiments I really do appreciate it. Yanela on the line from Limpopo. Some important thoughts. 25 after 8.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
Well, I was not aware of a thing called the global zinc cycle and how the role that it plays in our oceans and what it tells us about our changing climate, and particularly in the Southern Ocean to the south of us. It turns out this is very important. Professor Alekendra Roy Chowdhury is a specialist in environmental and marine geochemistry at the University of Stellenbosch. Professor Roy Chowdhury, good morning to you. Firstly, what is the global zinc cycle?
Good morning. So, zinc cycle, basically what we are trying to understand is where the zinc comes from, where does it go. So whether it is from rocks going into the oceans, in the oceans, whether it is going into these microscopic plants, and when the plants die, what happens to that zinc. So the cycling of the zinc and how it gets transported to different parts of the ocean, that is what we call the zinc cycle. The global zinc cycle.
Okay. And what does it tell us about how climate is changing? I mean, obviously the changing climate has a massive impact on the oceans, and the oceans have a big impact on the climate.
Yeah. So, climate-wise, zinc, it's a metal that is required in one of the enzymes in the plants that takes up the atmospheric carbon dioxide and converts or fixes it into the organic carbon. And that is how it impacts the climate, because it is removing carbon dioxide that is accumulating in our atmosphere into these microscopic plants that grow in the oceans.
And I presume then if it changes, we can tell what's changing. Are we seeing disruptions to what was the zinc cycle of the past?
So what currently we are researching is actually how we know that zinc is playing this role, but the problem is because zinc is in very tiny amounts present in the ocean, and even within that tiny amount, only fraction of that becomes available to these phytoplanktons. So what we are trying to research is that where the zinc actually, in what form that zinc is, so that we can understand that when it becomes available to these phytoplankton, because what is happening is that large parts of the ocean where the phytoplanktons don't grow. And one of the reasons for that is that supply of zinc is not available to them. And even if it is available to them, it is not present in the form in which it can be taken up for the plants to grow. Professor. So naturally, to decrease the atmospheric carbon dioxide, if we can grow more of these phytoplanktons in the ocean, we should be able to mitigate some of this accumulating carbon dioxide.
Sure, that's quite something. Professor, thank you. Professor Alekendra Roy Chowdhury, Specialist in Environmental and Marine Geochemistry in the Department of Earth Sciences at Stellenbosch University. 28 after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. A couple of South Africans, yes, Labuschagne in the American team.
Imagine, what an interesting twist. But you know our Proteas, they know how to handle pressure. They faced the USA, the co-host in the Super 8 phase of the ICC T20 World Cup in Antigua today, 4:30 in the afternoon. The US team boasts talents like New Zealand's Corey Anderson as well, former India under-19 players Harmeet Singh and Surab Netrafalka. They'll also be relying on information from the South African-born players Shadley van Schalkwyk and Andreas Hoos. Now, with Aaron Jones leading the charge for the US team, the Proteas will need to bring their A-game to secure a win. More cricket. South Africa's Sune Lewis says the Proteas women will come back stronger after their batting collapse in the first ODI against India. This second ODI today at 10 a.m. is crucial, with ICC Women's Championship points at stake.
Yeah, we're obviously well aware of the points table and what needs to happen. We obviously have India and then England in November, December, which is obviously one of the toughest opposition to play against, as well as India in their own backyard. So, no, it's definitely for us. We came here looking for those points.
Moving to the Blitz box, they are determined to seize their third and final opportunity to qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympics, having defeated their regular rivals, including France, New Zealand and Fiji, during the HSBC 7 season. The team knows the performance and the importance of this World Rugby Sevens repechage in Monaco this Sunday. Let's hear from Blitzbok debutant Tristan Lates.
It's pretty special to become a Blitzbok, and now to even top that with hopefully becoming an Olympian after this weekend. It's one of those things as a kid, you're on the track and doing athletics, you kind of like dream to be in the Olympics, and you get an opportunity in a different sport code, so that is something pretty special for us.
And finally, soccer. 4 years since joining Danish top flight AGF, South African player Gift Links has described the 23-24 season as his best at the club. The side is based in Aarhus. They managed a 5th place finish as Midtjylland clinched the Superliga title, with their nearest rivals Brøndby running them close. Now, speaking to SABC Sport from Denmark, Gift Links prepares for the upcoming 24-25 campaign.
I would say this was my best season since I've been in Denmark. Like in overall, everything as a whole, playing wise and goals and assists. So it was my best year since I came to Denmark, and I was really happy, because it was the help of players, everyone, the coaching staff, the fans, the confidence and the belief they gave me. So it was really nice.
That's a wrap of your sport on Sunrise. More sport on SFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. All right, the government, the road ahead. That's next. You're with SFM leading the conversation, 8:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure says they've heightened police visibility in all corners of Gauteng province, where the presidential inauguration is taking place. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be sworn in at the Union Buildings in Pretoria today. The newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe party has confirmed it will not attend the presidential inauguration, and a 38-year-old man arrested in Delft on the Cape Flats on a double murder charge is expected to appear in court today. He allegedly robbed a delivery truck in Symphony Way in May, killing 2 occupants. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, if you're on your way to Joburg through to Midrand, maybe Pretoria direction, maybe just try and avoid the Buccleuch interchange. Some really heavy traffic queuing on the N3 from Edenvale, the N1 from Four Ways. There is an operation inside the Buccleuch interchange on those ramps, or on the ramp from those highways to drop you onto the M1 North for a turn up towards Allendale. So plenty of other alternative routes which are open and pretty much flowing this morning. Pretoria generally very busy. Hatfield side and Arcadia side as all the road closures for today's inauguration go into place, or have been in place for some time. It'll be busy, particularly around the Arcadia side as you come in from sort of Gazina, routes like Hamilton Street. It'll probably stay under pressure most of the day, and then it'll get busy as you head home into those closures again this afternoon. Now, lots going on around Durban. A truck crash at Cliffdale still being recovered. Very heavy queues from Hammersdale on the way to Durban. Then another crash at Pavilion Mall, again on the way to Durban. Big traffic coming from the M13, Paradise Valley split at Pinetown. There's also big backlogs on the N2 between Inanda Road and Spaghetti Junction. And if you're driving out to Pietermaritzburg, a crash at Key Ridge from Shongweni. That all gets badly backed up. Cape Town looks like an issue around Wynberg Hill. So the M3 in from Constantia on your way to Newlands busy. It is starting to move a little bit better though, so that's good news. And a crash out at Gants Park in Somerset West, holding traffic both directions. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Mediated conversation on SAFM.
27 minutes now to 9. The time for your mediated conversation this morning. Later this morning, about 2.5 hours from now, Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa will be inaugurated for a second term as President of the Republic of South Africa. But this term, I suspect, will be very different. He will now be leading a government which will include people from other parties after the DA, the IFP, the Patriotic Alliance and the PAC voted with the ANC to elect Ramaphosa president in the National Assembly on Friday night. This means his cabinet is now expected to include members from opposition parties, or do I describe them as previously opposition parties, in what will be a new coalition. Much has changed in our politics in the last few days, and it can feel like we're entering a new era. So what will change and what will not change? First this morning, the political analyst, Professor Stephen Friedman, and then Dr. Ralph Matega. It's an important day. There's a lot to get through. Professor Friedman, good morning, and thank you very much indeed for joining us on what I think is an important morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you.
It can feel like we're entering a brand new era, that what we're seeing now is something completely different to what we've seen in our politics before. Is it wrong to feel like that this morning? This is something we've never seen?
No, I don't think it's wrong, Stephen. Look, this is an important milestone in the country's democracy. It was inevitable that at some point the governing party would fall below 50%, and that's happened. And, that means that a party which has been governing the country alone for 30 years is no longer doing that, and that is going to have very important implications going forward. I mean, first of all, we've been used, analysts and people who follow politics, etc., we pore over what is going on internally within the ANC because that has meant what the government will do. Now it's only part of what the government will do. Everything the ANC discusses internally will have to be influenced by how it gets on with other parties and how it manages to stay in government with in a coalition, and that's a huge change in itself. But I think more importantly, you'll see some of the old divisions becoming less obvious and some of the new ones becoming clearer. So that obviously that slanging match between the ANC and the DA, which we've witnessed for the last 25 years or so, is going to be replaced by attacks on the coalition government from parties like the MK and the EFF on the one side, and parties like Action SA from the other. And, I think I think it would be very foolish to believe that the kind of divisions which created the situation which has ended now are going to disappear. But the way of handling those divisions might change, and it might actually free up our party politics, because we have been in a bit of a logjam. Many people feeling that they don't have anybody who they really think they can vote for. And perhaps the reaction to this coalition government may start to produce the parties that people feel they can vote for.
Sure. In other words, you've suggested, I think you called it the hole in our politics. The people who used to vote for the ANC, who no longer vote for the ANC, felt they had no one to vote for. This might finally lead to that kind of realignment that fills the hole.
Exactly. And I don't think the hole's only, that's the big hole, but there's also, black middle class voters, for example, an important part of this country. If you talk to black middle class people, most of them say, we don't really like any parties at the moment. So I think once this realignment starts happening, then gaps tend to get filled, and people start to say, well, look, there is a party out there which really speaks for me.
Events have moved very, very quickly. There was the election day, there was the counting. Kind of by the Friday, we kind of knew where we were. And I think everyone went from I think it was a shock to see the ANC falling to such a low figure. And the DA then supporting the ANC in the National Assembly last week. And I realized there are all sorts of reasons for that, and there's the constitutional deadline and all of that. But I think, in a way, people are still trying to understand what's really happened. What I'm trying to get to is, could we have a moment, maybe the first cabinet meeting, maybe the announcement of cabinet, when everyone suddenly feels they're in this government and they feel very uncomfortable with that?
Well, I think I don't think anybody's felt comfortable at all. There's some forced smiles in public, but, there are forced smiles. It was a huge shock, Stephen, because it wasn't what happened, it was the way it happened. And what I mean by that is, as you will know, the possibility that the ANC would fall below 50% was discussed very widely, and the politicians knew about it. And despite people saying in public, well, we're going to get a majority and therefore we're not talking about this, it's common knowledge that they were talking about it, that they were looking at what the options are. But what happened because of the MK party was that suddenly a whole lot of options were taken off the table. So that, for example, a lot of ANC people were anticipating a coalition with the IFP. But, if you look at the maths, that just was blown out of the water. Even those people in the ANC who were looking at a coalition with the EFF were sort of disoriented because ANC and the EFF didn't add up to 50%, although they could have found 4 or 5 small parties to cobble together. So basically what happened is that everybody had to, if you like, go back to the drawing board and say, look, we don't have all that many options. And I've argued strongly throughout that what we're actually seeing in front of us today was really the only option left on the table. So you can't really expect people to be particularly excited about this. They're doing it not because, it's what they've always wanted to do. They're doing it because it's the only thing that they can do if we're going to have a functioning government. And therefore, you're going to have a lot of tensions. Now, this is not helped. And, some of us have been on about this for months and nobody paid any attention. It is not helpful if you expect parties who've been shouting at each other for 25 years to cobble together a coalition in 2 weeks. It really has meant that a whole lot of things have been left hanging. And we've seen in the last 24 hours one of the ways in this works because, things like people saying, well, you said this about Pala last week and you're saying another thing about it this week. These are all things which nobody thinks about when you're sitting there trying to cobble together a 5-year coalition in 2 weeks. So I think one thing that really has to happen is that the Constitution needs to change so that we have a very clear procedure for what happens when no party can form a government. So that nobody has to say, well, we only have 2 weeks, because whether it says that the previous government stays or there's a joint government chaired by the Chief Justice, the actual details don't matter. But we must have a situation where if nobody can form a government, then they have the time. I've made the point repeatedly that if you go to countries who've been operating with coalitions for 30, 40, 50 years, even in those countries, a workable coalition can take 3 to 5 months to sort out. So to expect parties who have never been in a coalition with each other to sort out every detail within 2 weeks is simply not realistic.
It seems very likely now that in all of the parties involved in this, and particularly the two main ones, the ANC and the DA, that there'll be members, voters, and I'm sure leaders who are very unhappy and strongly disagree with the decision. Are you expecting some to try and stop the coalition from working? And this particularly, I think, will get to the situation in the ANC and could maybe see people trying to derail this coalition, maybe even try and remove Cyril Ramaphosa. Would have preferred to do a deal with Umkhonto we Sizwe?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's absolutely inevitable. Once again, we've seen that the last 24 hours. But that was partly what I was talking about, Stephen, when I talked about this political realignment, because it may well be that, in the next couple of years, sections of the ANC and sections of the DA decide that this is not for them and they can't live for that, with this, and therefore they will break away. And you will have new parties and new alignments. But yeah, I think, if anybody, the point that some of us have repeatedly made the point, this is not a government of national unity, it's a coalition. And we're making that point not because we're trying to score some academic point. We're making the point because governments of national unity very often govern in a situation where everybody's trying to make the thing work because there's a crisis or whatever. We're not there at all. So lots of people are not going to be trying to make this work. People are going to be trying to make sure that it doesn't work. And that is going to take a great deal of political skill from the people in the coalition. But it is also possibly going to, as I say, give us these new political alignments which we need.
Talking of new alignments, is there an opportunity now for, say, the EFF, Julius Malema? He promised on Friday he would not be disruptive. Maybe for someone else, maybe not former President Zuma, maybe him, to become the sort of face and voice of opposition. So, there's a fundamental realignment in all sorts of different directions. And I think that maybe, and you've sort of alluded to this already, there's a golden opportunity for someone to be the face of opposition in Parliament to this new government.
Absolutely. And look, I usually don't like talking about political personalities, but sometimes it's necessary. I've been fascinated by Julius Malema and the EFF since the election results. Because, what has happened is that, the party which was always the disruptor, and those pictures of people fighting each other on the floor of Parliament and the security board, etc., suddenly looks on its shoulder. And to be blunt, there's something more disruptive on the scene than they are. Substantially, there's a party which is claiming it was robbed of 9 million votes but doesn't have any evidence to back it up. And a party which is making, all sorts of demands despite the fact that it only has 14% of the vote. And this makes Malema and the EFF actually look like a reasonable opposition. And so far, we're at a very early stage, so far they've been behaving like a reasonable opposition. So it may well, if you like, reinvent the EFF as the party which is, if you're against the ANC-DA coalition from that side of the spectrum, then you can take the EFF seriously because you're associated with serious opposition, rather than causing fistfights on the floor of the House.
Professor Stephen Friedman, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. As you know, the political analyst. In a moment, we'll continue this conversation with Dr. Ralph Matega, the road ahead for our new government. You with SAFM, it's 8:45.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A reminder, heavy traffic on the way out of Joburg through Midrand direction today. Big traffic backlogs on the N3 coming up from the Alex Limbro Park side and the N1 North from Four Ways. The problem there is an operation as you link off those highways on that ramp to the N1 North. Return through Buccleuch up towards Allendale, if you like. So open routes is the order of the day with the alternatives. Big queues on the highway, so just avoid Buccleuch interchange if you want to get out of Joburg through to Midrand. Crash coming out of Pretoria, N1 south of the R21, so backlogging from Rigel Avenue. And a reminder of this trouble, which has just worsened over this morning east of Mbombela. It's the 538, it's the Carino Road, but importantly, it's the road that links you from the N4 highway through towards Kruger Mpumalanga International Airport. It is currently blocked. There's a filling station, Sasol Garage, just north of the N4, and that, with some rocks and stones over the roads this morning, has now become a full-blown truck blockade of that section of 538, so it is going to disrupt traffic to and from the airport on the eastern side of Mbombela. Now, if you're driving down to Durban from Pietermaritzburg, two major queues, one a crash at Cliffdale, heavy backlogs from Inchanga, Hammersdale side, and then a crash, a multi-vehicle pileup near Pavilion Mall, and that's your second queue, which forms from the M13, Paradise Valley. Very slow getting through that scene towards Spaghetti Junction. And Cape Town, looks like we've got a crash going inbound on Philip Kosana from Hospital Bend, the M3 in towards Rowland Street, gets heavily backed up, and a crash on the N2 still causing delays, Gants Park area of Somerset West. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Mediated conversation on SAFM.
9:13, continuing your mediated conversation this morning around the new government, the inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa in about 2 hours and 13 minutes from now. Dr. Ralph Matega is a political analyst at the Geopolitical Intelligence Services. Dr. Matega, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning to SFM listeners. Nice to be chatting to you.
How difficult is it going to be for Cyril Ramaphosa to run this government?
Well, ironically, I'll tell you, some of the difficulties he has encountered within the ANC, Stephen, will still persist. I mean, one of the difficulties has been on policy, what to do, on major policy issues, actually, that one would say affect the lifeline of the party. The ANC has been quite, they've experienced deep internal divisions around policy. So now imagine the party itself could not agree internally. Now you have a few more stops to stop by when it comes to policy decisions. You were having problems internally, but you did not have to worry externally. Now you have them internally within the ANC. It doesn't mean those divisions are going to go away on policy. There will always be repercussions, and the challenges also exist externally. So it is going to be very difficult, but I think that he's the type of a person who can actually walk this tightrope, because the president is capable of just managing this type of interest. I mean, I really think, look at how he survived through the first term within the ANC, and there he is now coming out as a favorable person to shepherd through this kind of transition, if you will.
When you have more interests, so people with more interests, so you have more diverse groups, can it almost be easier because you can play one group off against the other? Now you've got more groups to play off against each other.
You always have to know the line, Stephen, because some groups will threaten to pull out, and the question is, if they pull out, what would it be? Does it mean that you have a threat of the collapse of government, of national unity, this coalition government, as we speak about? I mean, Stephen, those differences, those divisions are going to exist. It will just be a question of managing them. Parties making concessions. It's not just about each bringing their issues and hoping that theirs get picked. It's about arriving at that idea of that sufficient consensus. It's about co-governance. It's the spirit of governance. You don't succeed because you have triumphed in your own position. You succeed because you have got others around you in the policies that you're implementing. That is going to be the big test for this government.
It would seem to me that the way in which influence works is going to change fundamentally. And you're going to have lines of influence, if I can call it that you never had before. So, for example, it would seem to me that the DA probably would only work with Ramaphosa as leader of the ANC, which means that could influence what happens in the ANC around whether Paul Mashatile were to try and take over, or whether someone else were to try and remove Ramaphosa. It may even have an influence. I mean, I can't imagine I'm saying this, but it may even have an influence on the ANC's internal election outcome, that people might vote thinking that actually we need to have someone who our biggest coalition partner finds acceptable. But influence goes in other directions too. So what the ANC thinks of a DA leader would really matter. If a DA leader were to say something that was truly objectionable to the ANC, maybe about the Middle East or something, or Vladimir Putin, who knows. That, in other words, influence work is going to work in strange ways, in ways in which we've never seen before.
Indeed, Stephen, the pipeline of influence is going to change. It is going to become much more complex. The two parties, the DA and the ANC, now, whether they like it or not, Stephen, whatever they call it, they have to have a sense of collective accountability. And collective accountability means what you also do on your side. Even if you exist individually, it does not mean the boundary, the lines between the two parties cease to exist. Even if you exist individually, what you do is going to have implications on what I do. I mean, one of the biggest tests here will be, is the DA going to go along with Mr. Mashatile if President proposes, or the ANC will insist that he's the deputy president, or if the ANC proposes that, will the DA go along with that? That would be very, very, very strange. I mean, I wonder how they're going to justify it if they go along with that, because they've taken a position that the deputy president has to be investigated on allegations that have been widely publicized in the media. So there are going to be repercussions. The DA is in this, Stephen. We should not forget about how we got here. And I think Prof. Friedman pointed out there, the DA is in this because they got stagnant in the elections. The prospect of governing looks like quite difficult, does not look good. The ANC need the DA to survive, but there's going to be consequences. The mere fact that these parties are working together does not mean in the next elections you are going to have the voters equitably rewarding them as if there is some science there involved. No, it does not work like that. What voters are going to be looking at, some voters might be upset with the decision by the ANC, some might be upset with the decision by the DA. Hence, this party's survival has become so intertwined going forward. The two parties.
The making of decisions, do you see, and I mean there'll be lots of different interpretations of these agreements, I'm sure. Do you think the president will have to consult on every single decision? I mean, surely that would be quite difficult. I would imagine he'll have to consult on some decisions, maybe cabinet, maybe things like that.
Interestingly, Stephen, is that we are talking about someone who perennially consults. I mean, President Ramaphosa is guarded between the ANC. Most of the time, when it comes time for him to make decisions, Stephen, is when it's almost inevitable. Of course, there will be calls that need to be made where he needs to be proactive on decisions. And I think he understands consulting. Consulting also helps as well, because if you consult people, Stephen, they can therefore share that sense of collective accountability that emerges. If you do not consult, you go it alone, they just gonna say, go ahead in press conferences and explain what happened, and they will tell the public that we heard about it, it was decided upon. So those kind of political risk will always emerge as to who is at the end ultimately responsible for the performance of government. And the DA, they've got their foot in it, and they will have to share into that sense of collective responsibility, including as well, Stephen, the possibility of the DA being seen as inheriting some of the challenges of the ANC. I will mention Palapala. They will have to inherit the challenge of Palapala because they've toned down on Palapala. Another thing I can point out, do you see the DA now complaining about the cost of the president's inauguration? No, they're in the executive. Things are changing, Stephen.
Do you believe that this is going to result in better governance? And I realize that's a big question because governance is a major issue. But do you think a coalition government, as we're seeing currently structured, and I mean we may still have new parties to it, is it necessarily going to result in better governance? Or could it just lead to more stagnation or government operating in silos?
I mean, Stephen, I want to answer it quite carefully. I'll tell you, even if the intention of the actors do not mean well, even if the actors do not muster sufficient will to drive this thing well, even if they perform below optimal, an environment of coalition on its own, an environment whereby you are going to have to stop in a few more places to make decisions, that on its own allows transparency, allows a few areas to intercept even bad decisions. So if that environment exists, I think that on its own will bring about good governance. But I will say deliberately, if deliberate efforts are put into place, the political parties listen carefully to what the voters have said. They should not forget what they got, how they got here. They call it a government of national unity, Stephen. It is a coalition. Nobody wants to be with this. Actually, everyone in this coalition would prefer to be alone. And the voters have spoken and have said that no. So if they keep on referencing back to the message of the voters and try to perform so well, the voters are looking, they just might be rewarded. But for now, it is going to have to be about that deliberate purpose, that conduct, deliberate conduct whereby you're going to see people taking responsibility and oversight. I mean, what is going to happen to oversight? Losing the DA as an opposition, it can be a tremendous blow, not just because of how big they were, but the experience that they have in being an opposition party is not something that we can expect other parties to just learn overnight.
The biggest long-term issue we face is obviously around jobs, and particularly jobs for young people. Now, economic policy is something that governments can argue about, and maybe one of the biggest problems is that there just hasn't been enough change to economic policy. Is this going to be the big argument going forward?
I really think we circumstances have conspired to a point where we're being left with pragmatism only when it comes to how do we respond to economy. I mean, the question of dealing with infrastructure, the question of making sure that you do not allow some of the narrow policies or some of the narrowly pursued policies to intervene with meaningful reforms that are actually required. I do think that if you look at these parties, if you look at what needs to be done on the road, building infrastructure, dealing with all this, enabling the economy, rates and railroads, and all of this, the port authorities and thereof, Transnet, we all agree on this, energy, we all agree on this, and we have unfortunately allowed a situation whereby there isn't room to maneuver, there isn't much to disagree about. We have to be pragmatic on this. And I think in those areas you will see more progress, but there will always be areas of contentions, areas on land and thereof. There will be areas that are signature to some of the parties that they will hold on to. So we will proceed though, as these issues are being softened up.
Sitting on the sidelines watching all of this for the moment is former President Jacob Zuma and Umkhonto weSizwe. Still very angry at the election results, hasn't presented evidence to back up his claim that the elections were stolen. He has said that his 58 MPs will come to the National Assembly soon. What's going to happen to MK over the next 5 years? Are they going to play a big role in what happens?
I think the dilemma that the MK is facing, Stephen, is the reality that once you partake in competitive electoral politics, there are rules. You're going to have to follow rules. So if you want to be a movement which is not a political party, not organized, maybe sometimes you will have leverage of disruptions. But the sense is that they are trying to disrupt but they actually are being bound by the rules. They are a formal party now, and they do have quite a significant share of the vote. I mean, even when they talk about the election rerun and everything, they also have to think about the risk that they might come back lower than they have performed. So I would say they have to think about what they use. Are they going to consolidate with the percentage that they have at national level and even at provincial level? Are they going to reach out and try to work with other parties? Now, there seems to be an idea that they need to be kept out of government. How they respond to that will matter a lot. They have got significant seats in the KZN legislature, and I also think in this in national legislature, 14% is quite significant, I would say. So I think it is up to them whether they consolidate and build the space or they disrupt. The dilemma is that once you participate in formal electoral politics, that just takes away the leverage to further disrupt it.
Dr. Ralph Mateja, thank you very much indeed. Political analyst bringing an NTO mediated conversation this morning ahead of the inauguration. My thanks also to Professor Stephen Friedman, who started us off today. Well, that's it from us, from Mpho, Melissa Stanzim, myself. Let's go live to the inauguration now. That sounds a little bit like some band music in the background, an orchestra, and I suspect Kathy Makhahlana. Kathy, good morning.
Well, good morning, Stephen Grootes. It's just at the start of what is said to be quite an eventful day. And of course, we're going to be bringing all of the action live for you right here on SAFM, a special broadcast on the Talking Point later this morning. For now, though, our essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43517 now.
In our top stories, Nat joins ready to police the presidential inauguration and suspect in Delft bread truck double murder arrested. Good morning. The National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure, NatJoint, says they've heightened police visibility in all corners of Gauteng province where the presidential inauguration is taking place. President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa will be sworn in at the Union Buildings in Pretoria today. Traffic officials from the Tshwane, Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg Metro Police Departments have also been deployed at all key points to direct traffic and execute road safety measures. National Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate outlines the items prohibited at the presidential inauguration.
We are patrolling, conducting stop and searches and roadblocks to ensure we tighten security and deal with any forms of criminality. The following items are prohibited: dangerous weapons such as firearms and sharp weapons. No traditional weapons including traditional spears and knobkerries will be allowed. No alcohol beverages, no cooler boxes, no fireworks, no glass bottles, no drones. Members of the public are reminded that before entering the South Lawns, they will be searched and anyone found with these items will be turned away.
South Africa's capital city is alive with vibrant colours and festive energy as thousands of South Africans gather to witness the inauguration of the president-elect. The Union Buildings, bathing in the golden light of the morning sun, stands as a majestic backdrop to the historic event of the day. Prabashni Mudli reports.
South Africans have certainly come dressed for the occasion, donning exquisite traditional attire that showcases the rich cultural tapestry of the nation. The air is filled with a sense of unity and pride as many are celebrating not only the inauguration but also the diverse heritage that defines South Africa. The citizens, dressed in brightly colored attire, had this to say.
This is a Xhosa here, an inauguration for the president. You ought to be beautiful. You ought to look smart. I mean, you look at my hair and my hairband. It's like I am celebrating.
Prabashni Mudli, SABC News, at the Union Buildings in Pretoria.
The newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe party has confirmed it will not attend today's presidential inauguration. The party in a statement says the inauguration of President-elect Cyril Ramaphosa is sponsored by the DA. Party spokesperson Nhlamulo Ndlela says joining the inauguration would be like spitting on the graves of those who died for freedom. The MK party last week boycotted the first parliamentary sitting after receiving 58 seats in the National Assembly at the 29th May polls. A 38-year-old man arrested in Delft on the Cape Flats on a double murder charge is expected to appear in court today. Police spokesperson Malcolm Poyer says he allegedly robbed a delivery truck in Symphony Way in May, killing 2 occupants. The suspect was arrested at the Delft Day Hospital where he was seeking medical treatment after he was involved in a scuffle with community members who accused him of robbery. Poyer says he is expected to appear in the Belleville Magistrates Court.
The investigating team visited the hospital, recognized the suspect and placed him under arrest, even though he provided false names and details to the hospital administrators. The suspect is due to appear in the court on the 19th of June, facing charges of murder, attempted murder and robbery aggravated. The suspect and his accomplices robbed a bread delivery truck in Symphony Way, Delft on Thursday the 16th of May and fatally wounded the 2 staff members in the vehicle. The accomplices of this suspect are still to be arrested.
The N6 road between Stutterheim and East London in the Eastern Cape has been reopened for road users. The road was closed for several hours following a cash-in-transit heist yesterday. The Eastern Cape Transport Department spokesperson Unnati Bingoshe.
We wish to commend road users, motorists in particular, for their understanding and cooperation. We know that it was a huge inconvenience, but a necessary one done in the interest of their safety. Remember, we are dealing with explosives in cash-in-transit heists, and it was necessary to ensure that none are left undetonated among the many things that needed to be done on that crime scene. And a special word of gratitude to all the rapid response teams for a job well done.
And finally, SANParks has honoured firefighters who battled more than 100 large fires in the Table Mountain National Park area this past fire season. The ceremony in Cape Town was held to thank the firefighters for their bravery and firefighting efforts. Around 200 firefighters battled extensive fires which destroyed more than 6,000 hectares of vegetation across the park during the past fire season. One of the firefighters, Prince Ndonga, says he draws strength from the team around him when battling huge blazes.
It's very scary, but I get the bravery from our team, and I would like to thank the firefighters and our crew leaders are doing a great job to keep us brave. They're inspiring us to go up, and the dedication and the effort that the team brings about, it's very overwhelming.
Recapping the top story, the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure says they've heightened police visibility in all corners of Gauteng province where the presidential inauguration is taking place. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43517.
Here, there and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
Municipal services play a vital role in keeping our city safe, clean and functional. By paying for municipal services like your water bill, you're investing in the future of the City of Johannesburg's water supply. Paying for your services is not just a transaction, but a commitment to the sustainability of your community. Let's continue to pave the way for a brighter tomorrow, one payment at a time. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
SABC Sport delivers a warm blanket this June.
3 teams are playing their hearts out in the PSL promotional playoffs, all hunting for a special ticket to the Big Boys League of Ibhola laseMzansi.
The queens of the beautiful game kick like real champs in the Hollywood Bet Super League.